Kar ku tafi ko'ina. To jama'a kuna saurarin Africa akan Tanko FM. Kar ku tafi ko'ina.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم. نزل عليك الكتاب بالحق مصدقا لما بين يديه وأنزل التوراة والإنجيل من قبل هدى للناس وأنزل الفرقان. إن الذين كفروا بآيات الله لهم عذاب شديد والله عزيز ذو انتقام. إن الله لا يخفى عليه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. هو الذي يصوركم في الأرحام كيف يشاء. لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم. هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات. فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله. والراسخون في العلم يقولون آمنا به كل من عند ربنا وما يذكر إلا أولو الألباب. ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب. ربنا إنك جامع الناس ليوم لا ريب فيه إن الله لا يخلف الميعاد. إن الذين كفروا لن تغني عنهم أموالهم ولا أولادهم من الله شيئا وأولئك هم وقود النار. كدأب آل فرعون والذين من قبلهم كذبوا بآياتنا فأخذهم الله بذنوبهم والله شديد العقاب. قل للذين كفروا ستغلبون وتحشرون إلى جهنم وبئس المهاد. قد كان لكم آية في فئتين التقتا فئة تقاتل في سبيل الله وأخرى كافرة يرونهم مثليهم رأي العين والله يؤيد بنصره من يشاء إن في ذلك لعبرة لأولي الأبصار زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين والقناطير المقنطرة من الذهب والفضة والخيل المسومة والأنعام والحرث ذلك متاع الحياة الدنيا والله عنده حسن المآب أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما فاعبده واصطبر لعبادته رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما فاعبده واصطبر لعبادته هل تعلم له سميا ويقول الإنسان وإذا ما مت لسوف أخرج حيا أولا يذكر الإنسان أنا خلقناه من قبل ولم يك شيئا فوربك لنحشرنهم والشياطين ثم لنحضرنهم حول جهنم جثيا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا تجادلوا أهل الكتاب إلا بالتي هي أحسن إلا الذين ظلموا منهم وقولوا آمنا بالذي أنزل إلينا وأنزل إليكم وإلهنا وإلهكم واحد ونحن له مسلمون وكذلك أنزلنا إليك الكتاب فالذين آتيناهم الكتاب يؤمنون به ومن هؤلاء من يؤمن به وما يجحد بآياتنا إلا الكافرون وما كنت تتلو من قبله من كتاب ولا تخطه بيمينك إذا لارتاب المبطلون بل هو آيات بينات في صدور الذين أوتوا العلم وما يجحد بآياتنا إلا الظالمون.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Barkanmu da warhaka, na fata na samu kowa cikin koshin lafiya. Adam Rambo barkanku da zuwa, Ali Sisi Abdul Latif barkanku da zuwa. Ai ku kara share wannan video je nisa. Ku kara ku share. Iso video je nisa kamin ba Shaibu shigo mu tattauna. Yau mun tattauna cikin harshen Turanci saboda akwai mutane da yawa da suka kira ni wai suna so su contribute kuma suna so a yi cikin Turanci, shi yasa ku kasance daga nan mai kokari za ka ce mai mu manage shi yadda za a yi Hausa kuma da Turanci.
Wuraren Africa akan Tanko FM.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم. الله لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم نزل عليك الكتاب بالحق مصدقا لما بين يديه وأنزل التوراة والإنجيل من قبل هدى للناس وأنزل الفرقان إن الذين كفروا بآيات الله لهم عذاب شديد والله عزيز ذو انتقام إن الله لا يخفى عليه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء هو الذي يصوركم في الأرحام كيف يشاء لا إله إلا هو العزيز الحكيم هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب
To jama'a kuna sauraron Africa akan Tanko FM. Kar ku tafi ko ina.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome everybody on board. Today we're going to be speaking in English because we want to go get broader audience. Assalamu alaikum, Queen Lucky, barkan ki da shigowa aiku kara share video, and please try to share this video. It's very important program today. Like I know, I'm your host Alhaji Africa. I'm coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio. You are watching me on African TV, Alhaji Africa on Facebook, or Charity Foundation on Facebook. You are getting me on Alhaji Africa and Africa TV on YouTube, and also Alhaji Africa on TikTok. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about the history of Hadith and its authenticity. And I would say I'm with one and only Baba Shuaib. He doesn't need a lot of introduction. Most of you have seen him on Facebook. Some of you have seen him on TikTok and all over media. I'll be talking to him about the authenticity of Hadith and also his take on Hadith. And I have a lot of questions, and if possible, we'll be opening the phone lines for a few questions before we end the show today. Like I said, my name is Alhaji Africa. I'm your host. So without much ado, I'm going to invite him. He's going to come on board, and we start the show as usual. Assalamu alaikum, Baba Shuaib.
Wa alaikum salam, Alhaji Africa.
Naam.
Thank you for giving me your platform. Nagode Kwarai. As you all know, I'm Baba Shuaib, the correctional officer when it comes to religious affairs, whether Islam, whether Christianity. What I try to do is to wake up the people from slumber, not to fall asleep, because there's a problem. Just like we have problem in politics and all other aspects of life, there's a problem in religion and also Islam in general. So things have been infiltrated. So my duty
before you continue, I don't know if I want to bring you live on TikTok, so I don't know if you send me an invite so that I can so that people on TikTok can also hear you live over there.
Yeah, if you can start your TikTok live, or should I be the one to start?
No, I'm live on TikTok right now.
Okay, yeah, let me join you on live on TikTok. Right.
Yeah, I'm live. So you just have to send me an invite and I'll just pick you.
Okay. Yeah, so I just need to put my phone in a good position where I can connect to yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll bring you on. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about the history of Hadith, and then the authenticity of Hadith. Like most of you know, some scholars are saying that Hadith it's not that important part of the religion, and others are saying it's very important. So today we're going to be talking about that. We'll give you the chance to ask questions if possible, with Baba Shripe. Like I said, you all know him already. He doesn't need a lot of introduction. My name is Alhaji Africa. I'm going to be with you today. So, okay, you ready? Okay. Okay, so he's getting ready, and then we're going to go live on board with him. And Kasami, did you send me an invite?
No, don't send him out. No.
Okay. And then, so share all those on board. Please try to share on Facebook. And I've seen a lot of people on YouTube at the same time. And so kindly share is very important. And I'll be picking up your phone calls. Like I said, we're going to be talking about Hadith and the history of Hadith and its authenticity. So those waiting for me on TikTok very soon, he's going to join me on TikTok, and then we just take it from there. Okay, I think I see you on TikTok right now. See what we have here. Okay. I think you're coming live on TikTok. Okay, let me see. Yeah, guess go. Okay, I think you're live on TikTok right now. Okay, so we can hear you from both places. Okay, so we're good to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so my first question is we're looking at the history of Hadith. So, what is the history of Hadith? How did Hadith come about?
Yeah. Before we go to the notion of hadith. People need to understand why hadith and
Yes.
who concocted hadith. Where does it come from? Actually, if we have to deal with Islam goes with the Quran. Even though Islam didn't start with the Quran, Islam has been there before even Prophet Muhammad, or if you go to Quran chapter 42, verse 13 to 14, Islam was the same given to Noah, given to Ibrahim, Musa alayhi salam, and Isa alayhi salam before Muhammad. I hope you can hear me sounding clearly.
Yes, we are very clear. Yeah, both places on TikTok and on Facebook.
So Islam didn't actually start with Prophet Muhammad, and neither is it that when we say hadith. When we say hadith, we are talking about discourse, narration, event, a talk. It can be classified, but mainly the literal meaning is a discourse. Now, when we say hadith, it's an Arabic word which can be found in the Quran. If you go to Quran chapter 39, verse 23, God says, Allahu nazzal al-ahsan al-hadith. If you go to Quran chapter 52, verse 34, where God says, if you go to chapter 68, verse 44, there is hadith, al-hadith. So hadith has been in the Quran, which breaks down to discourse or narration. However, when we say the history of hadith, people are now talking about history of the hadith outside the context of the Quran, meaning not in the Quran, outside the context of the Quran. So what the scholars would define hadith to be is, when they say hadith, these are based on the scholars, not according to God, because if we are going to base on what hadith is according to the Quran, we will come to that, which is a different terrain to what the scholars are going to tell us what hadith is. So they will limit the hadith to be as the sayings of the prophet and the actions of what the prophet have done. This is what they claim. So they will say the hadith is what? The sayings and the actions of the prophet, and this I can say they are alleged reports of what the prophet and his companions have said or done combinedly. This is what the scholars claim as hadith. But then the problem arises. Hadith didn't start with Prophet Muhammad, if Islam is concerned, and people think Islam actually started with Prophet Muhammad. That's not the case. But let's assume people want to take their guidance from the Islam from Prophet Muhammad. Now, we have to first deal with the Quran, because the Quran is the epitome of the faith. It is what decides what Islam is. You understand? That is for people who don't know Islam already preceded. Now, what people do is they will now want to follow hadith books, which has a gap between what the Prophet brought and what people are following, right? So the highest form of hadith books that people usually follow is Sahih al-Bukhari, which is by Imam Bukhari, right? So I will be giving the history concerning Imam Bukhari and how he came about writing hadith books, and which today scholars classify as part of Islam, which didn't existed at the time of the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam. So the problem is people refuse to understand the Quran first before moving to the hadith. So what they do is vice versa. They want to understand hadith first before approaching the Quran, which is where the deviance always starts. So instead of focusing on the Quran first to understand the language of the Quran and what the Quran has classified, they rather leave the Quran hanging, abandoned, and then down they go to their scholars to find out what the scholars have to say concerning the Quran. So just like you and I are talking right now, this is Baba Shraib sitting here, right? You want to know Baba Shraib. Will you rather confront me directly, or will you rather go to my family to ask them about me? They will only tell you their perspective about me. If I'm sitting here, I have to first talk to you first before you can take my words and go and ask my family to verify. Do you see how it has to go? But what scholars of today do is they will rather be the ones they will rather be the ones to use their hadith books to actually say they want to confirm and to ascertain the veracity of the Quran, which is illogical. So coming to the breakdown, who is Imam Bukhari? Imam Bukhari is what we call was the first to create a methodological system for categorizing hadith using his stringent criteria for hadith approval. He classified each hadith as being what we call sahih, which is what authentic, and classified some as hasan, mutawatir. When we say mutawatir, something which is repeated, right, or occurrence consecutively. But when you say hasan, which is good, which can be used by the scholars, then they have the ahad, which is an alone type of hadith, which it is hard to trace the source, but then you can base your faith on. Then they have the da'if. Da'if is what they classify as the weak hadith, which is doubtful, but some scholars do use it. Then they have, and so on and extra, etc. Then in the hadith book, they have what they call al-Qudsi, hadith al-Qudsi. That, according to the scholars, this is a sacred hadith, or trying to say this is holy hadith, which is also problematic. So they usually name it the 40 hadith, right? Now, in order to go further, let's see who Imam Bukhari is. So Imam Bukhari, which he is a Persian, he is not an Arabian, he's a Persian. Now, what people fail to realize is they don't actually like to check the roots and sources of information before actually dealing with the information itself. In this modern day of journalism, when you are reading news from any other source, first of all, you have to verify the source of information and check the credibility of the one bringing the reports. Just like God tells us in Quran chapter 49, verse 6, he says, if an immoral person brings you an information, you have to investigate. Now, investigation is very important, especially when it comes to matters of narration, right? Because people can just make up stuff and tell you stories which doesn't exist. Or it could be the scholar telling you the story. It could be from a da'if hadith, but without you using your intelligence to investigate, you are in limbo. So now let's see who is Imam Bukhari. Imam Bukhari, by the full name Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari. Al-Bukhari is like a nickname given to him because he was born in the city called Bukhara, right? In modern day, we call that country Uzbekistan, modern day.
No.
But this is where he got the signature Al-Bukhari, because of Bukhara. Now, this Imam Bukhari, he is considered as one of the most distinguished scholars of hadith in Islamic history. His book, Sahih al-Bukhari, in which the Prophet's words, actions, habits were collected, is one of the greatest sources of the prophetic influence in history. Now, this is the historical perspective, which I don't necessarily agree with, right? His full name is Abu Abdullah Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari, and was born in 194, the year 194 after Hijr. And when we say after Hijr, this is the calendar being used at the time of the Prophet, right? We call it Hijr calendar. So after Hijr, 194 years he was born. Now, what I want people to pay attention is, when the Battle of Badr was fought at the time of the Prophet, the Battle of Badr was fought, which is mentioned in Quran chapter 3, verse 123, and Quran chapter 8, verse 41, concerning how the parties met and fought. It was fought in the year, second year after Hijr, 17th Ramadan. If you bring it in the year of the Common Era, that is 13th March 624 CE, which is Common Era. So now, why am I mentioning this point? During the Prophet's time, second year after Hijr, this Hijr calendar, now check how many years it took for Imam Bukhari to be born. 194 AH after Hijr, before he was born. So the Prophet was dead and gone long time before Imam Bukhari was born. And now, Imam Bukhari born at that age, at that time, this is what happened. He was born in the city of Bukhara, like I said, which is now called Uzbekistan. One of the present cities of Uzbekistan. His father died when he was young, and he was raised as an orphan by his mother, who educated him well and had a role in sharpening his love and passion for science. As a child, he had a disease in his eyes, which led to fears of losing his eyesight, but he was cured. He was highly intelligent as a child and had strong memory. Now, this is all part of the criteria of how hadiths are classified. You have to have a good memory. You have to be a good character. You have to have a good sense of, not having mistakes in your speech and so on. So what happened was, and one of the qualities that helped him later in the collection of prophetic words, alleged, and actions. During his youth, he memorized the Quran and learned the basics of the religion. So I wonder where he learned it from. This is the biography, the history of Imam Bukhari. It is everywhere. Everybody can look it up. It is everywhere, right?
No.
Now, during his youth, which was at the age of 16 years, during this time, at the age of 16 years, he had memorized thousands of hadiths while he was still a young boy. So at 16 years, he started this endeavor of getting to hadith books. And I will tell you what inspired him. And remember, he never met the Prophet, Muhammad alayhi salam. They never lived in the same era. No. Now, what happens is, he had memorized thousands of hadiths, and he says while he was still 16 years, young boy. Then Bukhara's atmosphere at the city he was born, which was then one of the centers of science, also helped him because he learned a lot from other people. He attended the meetings with scientists and religious scholars frequently. Now, this is still history or biography of Imam Bukhari coming from other narrators. Now, going forward, the story of his authorship of Sahih al-Bukhari, the most popular hadith collection book on earth today, Sahih al-Bukhari, how it started, which is the first classified book in the correct abstract and considered as a proof of eagerness, sincerity, and intelligence. It took 166 years of tough trips between countries. As for the trigger of the idea, Bukhari mentioned it himself, saying, I was with Ishaq ibn Rahawi, when he said, if you collected a brief book about if you will collect a brief book about the correct norms of the Prophet Muhammad, the messenger of God. So I liked the idea and started to collect Al-Jama'a al-Sahih. Ibn Rahawi was one of the teachers and professors of Al-Bukhari, right? One of the scholars of Nishapur. So he did not rush out to publish the book and made a lot of reviews, revisions, and investigations until he came out with the final version to include 7,275 hadiths selected by Bukhari. That is the teacher helping Bukhari now. Out of the 600,000 that he received, so Imam Bukhari received also. Some say, then he selected the ones which is okay for him. Now, where he worked hard checking the narrations in a strict manner, he set conditions to accept the story of the narrator of the hadith. He, Imam Bukhari himself, set the conditions. It wasn't prophet. It wasn't any companion of the prophet. He never met them. He is setting all these conditions. Who gave him the authority? We will come to that. He set conditions to accept the story of the narrator of the hadith, which is to be contemporary to those who narrated it, and to have heard the talk of out of the person himself, in addition to trust, justice, discipline, mastery, science, and honesty. So the last part before I go into the history of the hadith itself, let me give you this part. Now, what people fail to realize is this guy started this at the age of 16. This endeavor, he started it at the age of 16, at a teenage age. It is said that Al-Bukhari collected over 300,000 hadiths and included only 2,602 traditions in Sahih. At the time when Bukhari saw works and conveyed them, he found them in their presentations combining between what will be considered Sahih, which is authentic, and Hasan, which is good, and that many of them include Da'if hadith. So Imam Bukhari himself has to sever and take out some of the things he thinks are bad and some of the things he thinks are good. This aroused his interest in compiling what hadith whose authenticity was beyond doubt. What further strengthened his resolve was something his teacher, which is Rahawi, hadith scholar, that is Rahawi, better known as Rahawi, had said. Muhammad ibn Ismail al-Bukhari said, we were with Ishaq al-Rahawi, who said, if only you compile a book of only authentic narrations of the Prophet. So this is where the inspiration of Sahih al-Bukhari started, because he decided to take all the doif and everything aside and only focus on Sahih al-Bukhari. You understand? So the ones he has gathered, he only claimed they are the Sahih. And this is about 7,000 books, collections of hadiths, right? Which later on we have scholars like Imam Albani who even filtered it and saw the corrupt ones in the ones he classified as Sahih al-Bukhari. So how did Bukhari got the inspiration to start collecting hadith books? He said what? I saw Prophet Muhammad in a dream, and it was as if I was standing in front of him. In my hand was a fan with which I was protecting him. I asked some dream interpreters who said to me, you will protect him from lies. Listen carefully. Imam Bukhari's inspiration was he saw Prophet Muhammad in a dream. Somebody you never met. You don't know how he looked like. You are not an Arabian. You are a Persian. You are claiming you saw him. I wonder which face or which picture he saw to make him think that is the Prophet Muhammad. But here he says, the interpreters of a dream told him that you will protect Prophet Muhammad from lies. So they are now telling us God is asleep. God cannot protect his own prophet or messenger after telling him in Quran chapter 5 verse 67, Wallahu yasimuka minan nas. God will protect you or safeguard you from people. Now, this is what compelled me to produce Sahih. So this is what inspired Imam Bukhari. Now, we are finished with the history of Imam Bukhari. The veracity of whatever I said can be found on authentic sources on the internet. It's there. It is not an information I'm making up. Now, the second highest form of hadith classified in the modern day Islam after Imam al-Bukhari's hadith, Sahih al-Bukhari, is Sahih Muslim, who is also a Persian. He is not an Arabian. But I wonder how these people find the method of infiltration to infiltrate the world to make them think this Persian concept of book collections are part of Islam. I wonder. But let's see. So now, this Sahih, when we say Sahih Hadith, it's a single narration conveyed by a trustworthy, completely competent person, either in his ability to memorize or to preserve what he wrote, with a mutasil. When we say mutawasil, like a wasal, to have a connected chain of narration. And then the isnad, that is the chain of narration, the isnad, and then that contains neither a concealed flaw, like it shouldn't have a flaw or mistake in the isnad. And then they have what they have, no irregularity. There should not be irregularity in the narration. and with something such as numerous chains of narration to back it up. Like for instance, let's say the World Trade Center was coming down, and then we have BBC is narrating the same news, CNN narrating the same news, and then we have Al Jazeera narrating the same news with consistency. This is how hadith can be classified from scholars as being sahih. But the sahih hadith, when we say sahih al-Bukhari, it didn't start with the scholar, it started with Imam Bukhari himself. He started classifying his own hadith as sahih al-Bukhari. Then later on, we had scholars who came after him, example, Imam Albani, who also filtered out of the sahih and threw some up to the trash. He rejected about over 5,000 hadith books from hadith narrations from Imam Bukhari, which they classify as sahih. He even rejected. Now remember, coming after Imam Bukhari. Now, what is the criteria in which they classify? What is the criteria in which they classify this as? How do you call it? They classify this as Sahih Hadith, right? Oh, I think the TikTok video section has ended. Aj, I cannot hear you.
Yeah, I'm trying to bring it back. So I think it dropped.
Okay, no.
So just continue, and then I'll
okay. So the criteria in which we classify hadith as Sahih al-Hadith.
Yeah.
Now, they say you have to have a good character, number one. Now, this criteria was something Imam Bukhari himself set the standards. Remember, he wasn't inspired by Prophet Muhammad. It wasn't Prophet Muhammad who asked him to do that. It wasn't any Sahaba who asked him to do that. It is his own wishful thought and ideas. So he says you must have a good character. Number two, you have to have a good memory to be able to memorize things. Number three, continuity. To have something we call continuity, to be able to have persistence in continuing something. Number four, you should have no flaws in the hadith. Number five, there should be no contradiction from that hadith to another hadith book. And meanwhile, scholars have over 600,000 hadith books. And I will tell you, the most popular Sahih al-Bukhari hadith out there, you can have from volume 1 to up to, I think, volume 9 or 10. Which, if you take 3 books, only 3 Sahih al-Bukhari books, it is more than the Quran combined. The Quran only has about 114 chapters, 6,236 verses. If you take only 3 of Sahih al-Bukhari book collections, volume 3, 1, 2, 3, combined, they are more than the Quran, the pages in the Quran. Then imagine you have about 9 volumes of Sahih al-Bukhari, and then you have about 8 or 9 volumes of Sahih Muslim. You have about 8 or 9 volumes of Jami' at-Tirmidhi. By the time you finish learning hadith, you are dead. And they claim these books are the ones explaining the Quran. This is where I have the problem. A book Prophet Muhammad never met the writer. Prophet Muhammad never prophesied about the writer. Prophet Muhammad never used it at his time. So the scholars now enforcing this kind of ideologies to people. First of all, who gave them the authority? Now, at the time of the Prophet, God made the religion complete when he was alive. Chapter 5, verse 3, God says, Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum wa atmamtu alaykum nimati wa raditu lakum al-islam ad-dina. He says, I have perfected the deen for you, and I've approved completed my blessings over you, and then I've proved Islam as a religion for you. So Islam was complete at the time of Muhammad. So if it was complete, where was the room for Sahih Bukhari hadith? So now, Imam Bukhari himself was born a Muslim. Before he started collecting hadith, which books was he using to practice Islam? Before he started collecting the hadith at the age of 16. Where did he get the notion of practicing Islam? That is another question mark. Now, coming to this point, why do we need Sahih Hadith? Why do we need them? According to the scholars, they say to provide proper guidance and in all aspects of what? A Muslim life, such as performing salat. So number one question you hear any hadith follower asking somebody who doesn't agree with hadith, they will say, how do you perform salat? We will come to that. And other acts of worship. This is why scholars think we need Sahih al-Bukhari hadith or Sahih hadith like Sahih Muslim and so on. But they forgot to realize that the Quran was to serve this purpose. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Quran chapter 2 verse 2. That is the book wherein there is no doubt, as guidance for those who are pious. If you are a pious person, the Quran is sufficient for you as a guidance. Quran chapter 2 verse 38. When God told us to descend, both Adam, his wife, and the Iblis to descend from the garden, to go away out of the garden, he said his guidance, he will send guidance from him to us. If we follow the guidance, we will never grieve or fear. So the guidance of God has nothing to do with the book of Bukhari. Because first of all, it wasn't God who inspired Bukhari. Bukhari only claimed that he saw Muhammad in his dream. How can you see somebody you don't know? You never saw his picture. You don't know how he looks like. You say you have seen him. It doesn't add up. Now, when you go to the Quran, chapter 17, verse 9, Surah Al-Isra'il. I'm going to say this before, if you have any question to ask me, then you can ask me, Hajj. So chapter 17, verse 9, God says, Inna haza al-Qur'ana yahdi lillati hiya aqwam. Wa yubashiru al-mu'minina allazina ya'maluna as-salihat anna lahum ajran kabira. Now, in Arabic, when we say inna, we bring it in Hausa, we say lalle. This lalle is to emphasize the claim you are going to make, to place an emphasis on it, to make it tangible, to make it strong. So God says, Inna haza al-Quran. Indeed, this Quran, not that Quran, not their Quran, this Quran I'm reading to you, the one given to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, this Quran guides to that which is more appropriate. So even if you have any form of guidance any other place, the Quran is the best book to guide you to more what is more appropriate. Then he says, وَيُبَشِّرُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ الصَّالِحَاتِ, and to give good news to the believers, those who act righteous, that is, who do good deeds. أَنَّا لَهُمْ أَجْرًا كَبِيرًا. Indeed, that they will have a great reward. Now, what people fail to realize is the Quran is to serve the purpose of guidance. That is why Quran chapter 45 verse 11 says, Haza huda. This is guidance. وَالَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ لَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مِّن رِجْزٍ أَلِيمٌ. So God has already given you the guidance in the Quran. But then you hear people, oh, if you are going to follow the Quran alone, how do you know how to make salat? First of all, my question to you, the Hadith follower, have you finished studying the Quran? You haven't finished. So who told you salat is not in the Quran? But as a matter of fact, at the time of the Prophet, alayhi salam, nobody ever asked him the question, yes, salat, how will we do the salat? That question doesn't exist in the Quran. Are you saying the companions or the people at that time, they forgot to ask him these questions? Because these are irrelevant questions. You need to know God before you start performing salat to him. You don't know God. Why are you doing salat? You are doing it for who? Because God says in Quran chapter 98 verse 5, he says, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ هُنَفَاءَ. Then he says, وَيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُؤْتُوا الزَّكَاةَ وَذَلِكَ دِينُ الْقَيِّمَةِ. So in your deen, if you don't know God and how to serve God sincerely, your salat is useless. Your zakat is useless. What I encourage people is try to know God first. How do you know God? From the Quran. To simplify this issue before we go to any other instance. Quran chapter 7 verse 33, God says, قُلْ إِنَّمَا حَرَّمَ رَبِّيَ الْفَوَاحِشَ مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ وَالْإِثْمَ وَالْبَغْيَ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ وَأَن تُشْرِكُوا بِاللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا. Then he says, وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. He asked the messenger to say, my Lord only forbids obscenities. When we say fawahisha, it is the jam'u, it is the plural form of what we call fahisha. That is, in Hausa we say al-fasha. Then he says, ma zahara minha, what is apparent thereof, what people can see. Any fasha, the job of fasha God has forbidden, shouldn't be apparent, God has forbidden. Then he says what? Wa ma batana, and what is hidden. If it is hidden, God forbids it because you are alone. Then he says, well, ithma. When we say ithma, it is a deliberate sin. It is different from when we say you have zambi or you have sayyi'ah. This ithma is a sin you do deliberately, right? Then he says, well, bagiya bighair al-haqq, and oppression without what? Right, or without justice. And then he says, and to associate with God, with Allah, what he has not given you authority or send down any authority. This is haram by God. So anyway, people associating these hadith books, Sahih al-Bukhari books, Sahih Muslim, Sahih Jami al-Tirmidhi, Abu Dawud, Sunan Ibn Nisa, this is called shirk. Because in the first place, the authority doesn't come from God. Secondly, messenger didn't give you the authority. Prophet didn't give you authority. You just stood up with your whims and desires and decided to attach these books to Islam, which is haram. Then lastly, وَأَن تَقُولُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. And to say what you do not know about Allah, it is haram in Islam. But what do you find scholars doing? Always telling people what God never said. You understand? So Hajj, this is where I stop before. If you have any question, then we move on.
Thank you very much. Like I said, you are listening to Africa TV and Al-Hajj Africa on Facebook. On YouTube, you're listening to us on Africa TV on YouTube. Unfortunately, I'm trying to get back on TikTok and I'm having issues getting back on it right now. So we just go with the Facebook right now until if I'm able to fix that issue. Now, I'll be opening the phone line soon. If anybody has any questions, they can call in. But my question here is with the hadith. Now, if you look at the story that you gave in terms of how hadith was collected, is it not the same thing as the Quran? Because Quran was also accumulated, like people collected it and put it together. So it's almost the same thing like the hadith. So what's the difference?
Okay, coming to that point.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the scholars who make such claims,
yeah,
there's a flaw and inconsistency in that claim.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
The criteria they use to follow hadith, they will tell you have to know the mutawatir, you have to know the isnad, you have to know the mutasil, whatever. That criteria wasn't the same use for the Quran. That is number one flaw. That's a lie. Now, if you take the Quran, there is nothing like chain of narrations under the Quran where you see that it says this surah was transmitted to this and written by this and transmitted to this, or someone heard this. No, the Quran, you never find anything of that sort under it. But whenever you are quoting hadith books, you will see on the authority of so and so, narrated by so and so, he heard so and so saying. The Quran didn't go that way.
Hold on. If you can go back on TikTok, that'd be nice. If you can send me an invite, I'll just pick you up. Yeah, I'm very sorry, our viewers. We just want to make sure we get people from TikTok to also be watching what we're doing live right now. And like you said, like you all know, I'm with Abu Shraib. My name is Al-Hajj Africa. I'm your host. I'll be opening the phone line very soon. So after I bring him up on a TikTok, see if you can send me an invite, I'll just pick you up and then we just take it here. Let me see what we have here. Invite. Okay, go live together. Okay, I think you're on now.
Okay.
All right, I'm listening to your answer. Yes, because it was all this is the same process.
Yeah, I'm trying to connect to the video there. Let me see. My video. Yeah, my video is on there.
Yeah. So someone who says the same process. So what's the difference?
It is not the same process. I'm going to show you some flaws in that. With the hadith narrations, first of all, you need authority. So it goes by on the authority of somebody and somebody and somebody. That is how they find the isnad and the mutawatir. This is how it goes. The Quran wasn't the same way like that. You never find any chapter in the Quran, like Surah Al-Fatiha, for example. You never find that Fatiha was narrated on the authority of so and so and so and so, and it goes like that. No. And secondly, they have classifications. Classifications means when they take it, it's either Sahih, it's either they say Hassan, it's either they say Qudsi, it's either they say this is Da'if or Ahad, and so on. Quran doesn't have that kind. You never find Fatiha where they say this is Qudsi, or this is Hassan, this is Sahih. So that argument is flawed. After that, you will never find the chain of narrators, meaning like we say, somebody will say, I heard the prophet was talking about this chapter in this way, so I think this chapter has to be this way, not that way. Unlike the hadith books. The hadith books, when you take the narrations, they differ from each other. Even if they classify it as Sahih, they contradict each other. So I'll give you some examples. I made a video. It's called Dear Hadith Books, where I show the inconsistencies in Hadith book. According to the Hadith books itself, the Quran was written at the time of the Prophet and it was complete. When he was about to die, it was complete according to the Hadith. I don't believe in that Hadith books. The reason why when I say I don't believe, people shouldn't take offense and say believing is a choice. You can't force somebody to believe in something which is illogical to him. You understand? So faith, because before you put your faith in something, you have to investigate it. You have to make sure, can I believe this or not? This is how faith works. You don't foolishly just get up and say, oh, I believe because Baba Shuaib is saying it, or because I heard the prophet said it. It doesn't work that way. If we have to believe everything the hadith says, there will never be da'if hadith. Then that means every hadith to be believable. Even Imam Bukhari himself, he rejected a lot of hadiths. Imam Albani, he rejected a lot of hadiths from Imam Bukhari. You understand? And so on. And it goes till today. Tijaniya have some hadiths they reject. Sunni, they have hadiths they reject. Shia, they have hadiths they reject. So who will they actually call hadith rejecter? But coming back to the point, I'm going to show you some flaws in the hadith book. Now, when you take, for instance, Sahih Muslim, the hadith of Sahih Muslim. Sahih Muslim is the second most reliable hadith in the modern day Islam after Sahih al-Bukhari. Sahih Muslim 3004. In book reference, book number 55, hadith number 92. Right? Now, this can be found in the book of Zuhd and Softening Hearts. What is the hadith saying? In the hadith, according to the hadith, it says, the prophet says, La taktubu anni wa man kataba anni ghayra al-Qur'an falyamhu wa haddisu anni. He says, do not write anything from me. If you write anything from me other than the Quran, you should wipe it out, meaning efface it, take it out. Wa haddisu anni. Now I'm going to show you that this inconsistency by scholars when they try to defend this hadith. When we say kataba, it means write. When you say hadith, it means narrate by your mouth, to say something. There's a big difference. Prophet says, do not write anything except the Quran. So if this is what he told the Sahaba or his people, they must have written only the Quran at his time. It is illogical to say the Quran was never written at his time. It's very, very illogical. The reason why I'm saying it's illogical, why was the prophet giving this command according to this hadith? He's telling the people not to write anything except the Quran. So meaning they wrote, right? So if they have written, and then he says nothing except the Quran, then he gave them the authority, narrate from me. Now, what did he say they should narrate? Why didn't he say, and write from me? He could have said, you should write something from me. But he says, narrate. What is the narration? Alhaji Africa, if I met you right now, we are talking, and I'm going to tell somebody that I was on Alhaji Africa show. Must I go and write it as a book? If I want to narrate, I have to just go and tell, oh, I was on Alhaji Africa show. That's narration. I don't need to write it down.
No.
So if you listen to the Prophet's command carefully in Sahih Muslim 3004, he says, do not write anything from me except the Quran. Now, according to the same hadith, I'm going to show you this contradiction here. According to the same hadith books they have, we are going to Sahih al-Bukhari. In Sahih al-Bukhari, then we go to, according to them, on his death, the Prophet was on his deathbed when he was dying, right? So I'm going to show the inconsistency here. Sahih al-Bukhari, 5,669. Book number 75, hadith number 30. Now the hadith is saying, which was narrated by what? Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas is narrating this hadith. According to the hadith, this hadith has been narrated by a lot of people before it goes to what? Ibn Abbas.
No.
And so goes to the narration of other people before Imam Bukhari got to write this. But listen to the hadith. When God's messenger was on his deathbed, Madaji, and in the house, there were some people, among whom was Umar bin al-Akhtar. The prophet said, come, let me write for you a writing or something which you will not go astray. That is, after the prophet died, he's telling them he wants to write something which they will never go astray. No. Then Umar said, the prophet is seriously ill. and you have the Quran. So the book of God is enough for us. This is what Umar said. According to this hadith, he says the messenger is telling them to bring a paper so that he can write something for them. That thing will not make them go astray. So meaning the Quran wasn't enough to protect them. Do you see the contradiction here?
No.
Now, if the Prophet in Sahih Muslim 3004, he says, La taktubu anni, waman kataba anni gayra al-Quran, falyam'uhu, meaning wipe it out if you write anything other than the Quran. Then the same Prophet who is about to die is telling them to bring a paper for him to write something. So, the Prophet can even write. He's telling them now to bring. And the scholars are telling you the Prophet couldn't read and write. So now he can write, right? So he told them to bring. What did the Umar say? Umar said the Prophet is sick, so don't mind him. We have the Quran, is enough. So meaning Umar knows that the Quran was complete, right? Because that is the only book the Prophet God gave people authority to write. Quran chapter 2, verse 282. If God can inspire the Prophet to tell the believers how to write debts, common debt too. People are saying that the Quran wasn't written at the time of the Prophet. Is that what they are telling us?
No.
It doesn't make sense. It's illogical. The book of guidance for mankind, you say it wasn't written and it has to go through people's head. Logic doesn't carry this along. So now, this hadith I'm quoting, Umar said, the book of God is enough for us. So meaning the book of God is there. The people present in the house differed and quarreled. Some said, go near to the prophet so that he may write for you a writing after which you will not go astray. While others said, Umar said, when they caused a hue and cry before the prophet, God's messenger told them to go away. He sacked them because he couldn't write the thing, because they didn't bring the paper. So he got angry and told them, leave here. Now what happens is, this same hadith, in the part of the hadith, narrated Ubaidullah ibn Abbas used to say, it was very unfortunate that Allah's messenger was prevented from writing that statement for them because of the disagreement and noise they made. So he didn't write anything for them. So meaning the Quran was complete. This is what Umar said. The Quran was there. They have the Quran. He said the Quran was enough. Assuming if the Quran was not complete, what would have Umar said? Umar will say, oh, Prophet, you are going to leave us without any complete Quran, anything written down? How can we survive? Yeah, you have to write it for us. Write something for us. Do you see the inconsistency? Now, the scholars wouldn't take the time to see the illogical claims. What they do is they follow their wishful desires and thinking in order to mislead the masses. So Quran chapter 33, verse 67, Surah Al-Ahzab. On the day of judgment, people will lament. He says, Kalu Rabbana, inna atana sadatana wa kubara'ana fadalluna sabila. They will say, our Lord, we have obeyed our masters and our leaders, but they misled us from the way. Because people only follow their scholars, they just obey them, they don't question. They don't use their intellect to reason with things before following. They just follow as they are told. So the claim that the same way the hadith came to us is the same way the Quran is illogical and it's a flawed argument.
Now, because of time's sake, let me go to the next question. Prayers. Allah told us to pray in the Quran. There is no details in terms of how you pray. It's in the Hadith. So how do you pray?
So
if you don't agree with the Hadith, how do you pray?
Good. Coming to this point, Hajj, the Hadith books, there is no single Hadith, and I'm throwing the challenge to any scholar watching. There is no single Hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Jamia Tirmidhi, Sunan Ibn Nisa, which shows you how to do from Iqama. Iqama. When I say Iqama, when they are standing, they do Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. From Iqama up to Salam, they don't have one Hadith where the Prophet himself is teaching them step by step till the end. They don't have one Hadith. What they have is they take chunks of Hadiths and join them together, and they say, here, I saw the Prophet standing one day, he did this, he was holding his hand, and he did 2 rakats, and he bowed down. This is what they will tell you. There is not a single Hadith which can show you Salat from beginning to end. However, when you come to the Quran, what you find is there is a difference between prescription and description. The reason why scholars are telling you there is no details, there are details. Remember, Quran is a tafsil, a book which does the tafsil al-kulla shay'in. Quran chapter 17, verse 12. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ فَصَّلْنَاهُ تَفْصِيلًا. It will take an ignorant person who claims he's a scholar to tell you that the Quran doesn't give you details of the salah. Quran has the details. But are they knowledgeable enough to know it? The answer is no. And I dare any scholar watching, they should come, let's have a live dialogue where I'll prove the salat from the Quran A to Z, and they should come and prove their hadith, where the Prophet taught them how to do the salat. They claim in the hadith, the Prophet said, Sallu kamara aitumuni usalli. This is from the hadith book. The Prophet is telling them, pray as you have seen me pray. Hajj, let's be honest. You sitting here, have you ever seen the Prophet praying?
No.
How can you pray the way he's praying? I mean, you can only tell me that scholar said it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
No.
They never gave you any evidence. No person watching me right now can bring me a book where it says, this is what I've learned from the Prophet and he taught me. You can only say somebody's hearsay. And when we say hearsay, this is a delicate issue here. And when we say hearsay, somebody's hearsay, we are talking about something you heard through another rather than directly. You never saw the Prophet directly pray. You only assume because somebody said he heard somebody say the Prophet did this way. Do you see the point? When you come to the Quran, the summary of the Salat is found in Surah Al-Maryam, chapter 19, verse 58 to 59. It is all about standing, reciting the verses of God, right? And then bow down and prostrate and glorify God. That is the Salat. That is it. Somebody will say,
so there's no rakat and there's no tayya.
Quran doesn't mention raka'at. The word raka'at is not found in the Quran. Some scholars will tell you, oh, you can find ruku'u, you can find raka'at. Are you knowledgeable than God? God will have said, do 2 raka'at, do 3 raka'at. He will have said that. He never said that in the Quran. So if the scholars are claiming the epitome of Islam is the Quran before any other book, let's go to the first source. Does the Quran mention raka'at? The answer is no. So where did they get it from? Who commanded them? Imam Bukhari?
So do you do rakat or you don't do rakat?
There's no rakat in the salat. So why would I do something which is not there?
How many times do you pray?
3 salats in the Quran. There's only 3 salats. There's Salat al-Fajr, Salat al-Wusta, and Salat al-Isha. Only 3 mentioned in the Quran by name. You find 2, the name of 2 in Surah al-Nur, chapter 24, verse 58. Salat al-Fajr, Salat al-Isha. And then you find 1 in Surah al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 238. Salat al-Wusta. There's only 3 salats God has given. Right?
And if we say rakat means you do 2 times or you do 3 times. So how many times do you do? So if you're doing
when we say raka'at is the postures, how many repeated times you do the postures.
Yes.
You see the word raka'a is ruku', to do ruku'. You know, when the people do salah, you see the ruku', the bowing down. So it is that posture they used to count how many raka'at. You understand? So in Quran chapter 22, verse 77, God says, Ya ayyuhal lazina amanu. He says, Arka'un wajjudu wa'budu rabbakum. Right? Quran chapter 22, verse 78. Verse 77. So God says, oh, you believe, Arka'un wajjudu wa'budu rabbakum. So now, this warkun, these scholars took to the form that, oh, it has to be consecutively, so you have to do it repeatedly. Then they formed the notion of raka'at. God never asked you to do 3, 4, 5. No, but it's your own accord. An imam is giving you salat, and he decided to go 5 minutes. You, the follower, are you going to go 10 minutes? No.
No, you go according to the imam, yes.
Exactly. So if imam decides to go 2 raka'at, I'll follow him. I'll do 2. If you go 3, I'll go 3. Because he is the leader. He's leading. There is no restriction in the Quran where God says you have to do 2, 3, 4 rakats only. If any scholar says there is, they should call right now and show you.
So I just want to make clear. So how do you pray? That's what I'm trying to see. Because how do you pray?
I gave you the summary, Hajj. I mentioned chapter 19, verse 58 to 59. It is described there as the prophets did. Salat is the notion of reciting the verses of God. Pay attention to the verses. Understand the message God is giving you. That's like God told you, وَرَتِّلِ الْقُرْآنَ تَرْتِيلًا إِنَّ سَلُولْكَ عَلَيْكَ قَوْلًا ثَقِيلًا. You are reading the Quran, reciting the Quran to get the message from God. Then after that, you can show your submission by prostration. So it is, the summary is found in Quran chapter 19, verse 58 to 59, and Quran chapter 17, verse 107 to 110 is found there. So it goes with the standing, then you go down in the bowing down position, then you go prostration. Then the act of your glorification, the tasbih, the glorification, the Subhana Rabbi al-Ala, Subhana Rabbi al-Azim, they are all found in the Quran. Tabaraka Rabbi Ismi Zil Jalali wal Ikram, they are all in the Quran. You find it there. So these are glorifications you use to glorify God. You can call God for help. Ista'inu bis sabr was salat. In your salat, you can seek for help from God. You can give glory to God. That is what we call obeisance. You call on God, you make the prostration, you call on God. That's it. This is what salat is about. When you are ending your salat, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. That's it. You're done.
Now, the 5 pillars of Islam is not in the Hadith. It's not in the Quran. It's in the Hadith. Do you believe in 5 pillars of Islam?
Then that's a problem. If Quran is the epitome of Islam, and you say it is not in the Quran, then that means some people have created a new religion where they find their own pillars there. Salat is in the Quran, Hajj is in the Quran, Zakat is in the Quran, Siyam is in the Quran.
I mean the details. I'm talking about the details of how you do it.
Every details is there. Hajj. I have videos. People who watch me, they know. I've done lectures where I break down everything. What do you want to kill? Hajj,
so Hajj, when you go to Hajj, if we go to Hajj and we go to Arafah, is Arafah in the Quran?
Yeah, you are going to the Arafah. It's mentioned in the Quran.
So what is it? So you agree with everything that is done in Hajj when you go to Mecca?
No, not everything.
So what is it that you don't agree with?
I'll tell you.
No.
Number one, the procedure in which they do. God says we should do Hajj in several months. Ashrul Ma'lumat. He didn't only give us 1 month to do Hajj. Neither did he say only 10 days. Right? They've limited it to only 10 days. And you are containing millions of people at that place for this limited number of time. God in his infinite wisdom in Quran chapter 2 verse 197, he gave you several months to do Hajj with it. That is number one. I don't agree. Number two, the procedures where they force people to go and kiss the black stone, to go and worship the black stone. Some people will say we are not worshiping, but that is worship. I can classify what worship is. When some people don't kiss it, it's as if their world is ending. According to God, they should give you the chance to enter into Kaaba to see what is inside. They don't give you. They don't give you the chance to enter. But they give the prince and the authoritative people to enter there. There's Safa wal Marwa in the Quran. There's Kaaba in the Quran. Right? There is Arafah in the Quran. You can go all these places. But however, they are limited. They are not as much as the things have been added there. They're going to drink Zamzam. Zamzam is not mentioned in the Quran. It's the formulation idea of the people just to sell for marketing purpose and get their money.
But Zamzam is not really part of the Hajj anyway. Zamzam is kind of like a symbolic thing where people go and they drink.
It's not in the Quran.
Okay. No, I understand that, but it's not really part of the Hajj. But Kalma Shahada, is in the Quran?
When we say Kalimat Shahada, it's an Arabic word. It means the word of witness or the word of bearing witness. When we say Shahada, it's to bear witness.
No.
Bearing witness is found in Quran chapter 3, verse 18, where God himself, he bear witness of himself. He says, Shahid Allahu annahu la ilaha illa huwa. Then he says, wal malaikatu wa ulil ilm qa'iman bil qisti. Then he says, la ilaha illa huwa azizul hakim. So when we say shahida or shahada, it is to bear witness of something you have seen and you can witness. Somebody will say, why are we saying ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? Have we seen God before? Yeah, you saw God before coming to the earth. Quran chapter 7, verse 172. And you testified in front of him that he is your Lord before he brought you to the earth. Somebody can say, I cannot remember. Okay, when you were born, when you were 6 months old, 1 year old, can you remember whatever you did? The answer is no. Somebody still has to remind you. So now God is telling us in the Quran 3 verse 18, the only kalima to shahada you find in the Quran is to bear witness that there is no God but Allah. But I keep telling people, if you say ashadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, you are a hypocrite. Somebody who says wa ashadu anna Muhammadan Abdu wa Rasul is a hypocrite. The reason why I'm saying that, you are saying you bear witness that Muhammad is a messenger. I'm not saying don't believe in Muhammad. You can say Muhammad or Rasulullah. But if you say ashadu, you should understand the implication of the words you're using. You mean you bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger. Were you there? Have you seen Muhammad when he was assigned as a messenger? No, you are only reading a book and you believe in the book. Believing is different. If you go to a courtroom and they ask you, were you a witness when Muhammad was a messenger? And you say yes, they will slap you. You might go 10 years in jail. You never saw it. How did you become a witness? You can only say you believe he's a messenger of God. Amana rasulu bima unzila ilayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun kullun amana billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi la nufarriqu bayna ahadin min rusuli. I can believe he's a messenger. I don't need to bear witness. I'll be hypocritical if I bear witness. Do you know the reason why, Hajj? Even the people who were at his time, Surah Al-Munafiqun, chapter 63, verse 1, God says they are liars. You cannot bear witness. Were you there? Some people will say he received the messengership in the Garden of Hira. It's a lie. He never received any messengership in the cave, according to the Quran. No.
Some people will say bear witness means, belief during that time, because now.
No. Look, choice of words. Words are very powerful. That is why we say kalima. Words are powerful. If you are using words and you're trying to let it mean what it doesn't mean, it means you are concocting your own meanings. Now, the reason why I say you don't have the right to say you bear witness, Quran chapter 4, verse 79. God says, وَأَرْسَلْنَاكَ لِلنَّاسَ رَسُولًا وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ شَهِيدًا. We have sent you as a messenger to mankind, to all people, and God is sufficient as a witness. So now, if God is sufficient as a witness, who are you to bear witness that Muhammad is a messenger? Does God need your witness? Were you there? How did you witness that he was a messenger? Now, what people don't understand is some people will quote Quran chapter 13, verse 43. They quote it out of context, and I'm going to help out on this channel. وَيَقُولُ لَذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَسْتَ مُرْسَلًا. Those who disbelieve, they say he is not a messenger. They say, you, Muhammad, you are not a messenger. Then God says, Kul kafa billahi shahida bayni wa baynakum. God is sufficient as a witness between you, me and you. Then he says, woman indahu ilmul kitab. Now, this woman indahu ilmul kitab, it is not attached to God. It is rather attached to bayni wa baynakum. So this kum, the people who disbelieve, as well as whoever has knowledge of the book, God is a witness between all these ones. It is not saying God is a witness as well as whoever has knowledge of the book. No, this is flawed argument. If you have knowledge of the book, God is still the witness because he sent Muhammad. He only saw Muhammad. You weren't there. You didn't see how Muhammad became a messenger. He only sent him. He's telling you to give credence to the book by investigating it. Quran chapter 4, verse 82. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. Yours is to investigate the book Muhammad brought, claiming to be a messenger. You cannot say you bear witness. What made you a witness? How?
Let's look at something else too. Because I'm trying to go to the 5 pillars of Islam. Zakat.
Okay.
Do you pay zakat? Do you pay zakat?
First of all, we need to understand what zakat is, right? When we say zakat, it's the act of purity. It's something you do to get purity. You understand? So I'm going to give you the understanding thereof when people can understand why we say you give zakat. When you go to Surah Al-Layl, chapter 92, verse 17 to, let's say, verse 21, right? Surah Al-Layl. He says, وَسَيُجَنَّبُهَا الْأَتْقَى الَّذِي يُؤْتِي مَالَهُ يَتَزَكَّى وَمَا لِأَحَدٍ إِنْدَهُ مِنْ نِعْمَةٍ تُجْزَى. Then he says, إِلَّا ابْتِغَاءَ وَجْهِ رَبِّهِ أَعْلَى. Then he says, وَلَسَوْفَ يَرْضَى. Now, to understand what zakat means, the word zakat is an ism, it's a noun. But when we bring is the zakah or zakah, is a verb meaning to purify something, to be pure. Now, what people need to understand, anytime something is mentioned, try to know the roots and the aspects or know the sources and roots of that thing. Now, zakat is something, the money you give or the helping hand you give in order to purify your own soul. So in these verses I read, chapter 92, verse 17 to let's say 21, God says, and then the most pious will what? Will be saved from it. No. Then he says, Allazi yuti ma lahu yatazakka. You give your money, you give your wealth in order to purify yourself. That is the concept of zakah. Then he says, Wamali ahadi indahu min ni'matin tijza. You are not giving so that the person will come and do you a favor. You know, we have people who give charity so that they will say, oh, you are not doing it, but you are doing it for the sake of God. So he says, Illabtiga wajihi rabbil ala. You are only seeking the countenance of your Lord Most High. This is the concept of zakah. Giving zakah is a human act for humanity, that every human being, if you really know God, you have to do it. Zakat is the money you give to the poor in order to purify your own soul. That is zakah, is there in the Quran. So always you see God telling you, Aqimu salat wa atu zakat. Why do you do this? You only do the innal hasanat yuzhibun as-sayyi'at. You only do the good deeds in order to wipe your bad deeds away. That is why the salat and zakat, they go hand in hand usually, because you have to do both together. It's not only about calling on God, but you should know how to help humanity as well. So this is the zakat.
Now, so you don't have any percentage on the zakat like we have percentage?
There's nothing like percentage in the Quran. Quran chapter, let me see if I can give you the verse. Quran chapter 17, verse 24. Yeah, verse 24 to verse 25, right? It only depends on you. According to God, it says, وَالَّذِينَ فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ. Then it says, لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. Now, in your wealth, you yourself, you know your salary, you know what you are capable of, you know at the end of the month what you can take from your own wealth to give somebody. Now, what people don't understand is they think there's a percentage. Look, if God wants to tax you, no, none of you can pay. Now, I'm going to quote a verse before you ask me the next one. In Surah to Muhammad, Quran chapter 47, then you go to, let's say, verse 36 to verse 38. I'm going to give the explanation in English. God says, the worldly life is only a play and amusement. But if you believe and reverence God, that is revere, He will give you your rewards and will not ask you for your assets or your money. God never needs money from you. He is never taxing you for anything. So I don't know where people got the notion of percentage. God is taxing you for what? Now, verse 37. If He should ask you for your wealth or for your money, then it will restrict you to become stingy. If God is going to tax you, you become stingy. And it will bring out your hatred because you hate God. You're like, oh, what kind of God is taxing me? Just like some of the Christians do. They say you have to come and pay your tithe, come and pay your 10%, come and pay your this percent. Verse 38. Here you are, those who are invited to disburse, to spend in the way of God. That's why we say, fi sabilillah. What you are capable of giving, what you can give. Then he says, but among you are those who are stingy. And whoever is stingy is only stingy to his soul. For God is the rich while you are needy. And if you turn away, He will replace you with other people, then they will not be the likes of you. So it is not about percentage. God never asks for percentage in your money, but you know how to give and what your capability of giving is. So to summarize this, according to Quran chapter 3, let me give this verse. Quran chapter 3, verse 92. Yes. لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You can never attain righteousness till if you can give from what you love. How do you understand this concept, right? So if I give money from what I love, it is my own accord to choose what I want to give, not something I can disdain or look down on. No, something I love, I can use to give, but it doesn't mean a percentage. No, God is not taxing anybody.
Now, like I said, let me ask you: when somebody died, what we go to in terms of ritual, the burial, the prayers during the burial, you know, the hours that we're supposed to bury, most of them is not in the Quran. So how do you do that? Like if a family member is dead or something, what is the right way that you think is supposed to be done in the Quran?
No problem. First of all, the notion of burial, remember, according to the same scholars and the Hadith books, they claim the Prophet's parents were dead when he was born. He was an orphan, right? So the question is, how were they buried? Does it have an impact on the dead body? How does it help the dead body? What does it change in the livelihood the person have left, the legacy the person have left? Does it impact the person going to hell because of the burial? Okay, let's check the example. When we go to Quran chapter 5, verse 27, remember the two sons of Adam, one killed the other, but it was a bird who taught the other one how to bury the dead body. Remember, the one who was killed was a good person. The one who killed the dead body was a bad person. But at the end of the day, it was a bird teaching him how to bury the body of his brother. So I want people to understand the notion of burial. Christians can bury, Jews can bury, Indians know how to bury. The burial doesn't impact on the death of that bereaved person. No. The point is, you need to know how to give respect to the dead, but it doesn't change anything from his actions and deeds that he did towards God. So now taking you back to Quran chapter 5, verse 27, when you read downwards to like 31, the bad person who killed this person is the one going to bury this person. And it was a bird teaching him how to bury, because the soul is gone. So the body is just trash. You are only going to bury it so that it doesn't become a problem for those living on the earth. That's why we find cemetery and go and bury the dead. Now, you burying the dead, there's nothing you can do to save that dead person from whether if he's going to hell or paradise. There's nothing you can do to impact his life. I give an example. Quran chapter 16, verse 28 to 29. According to God, if you are a bad person and you are dying, the angels will give you dirty slaps and tell you where you are going, whether hell, they will tell you where you are going already before the angel takes the soul away. There's no concept of bringing it back in the grave to question you, no. Then again, in the same chapter 16, verse 32, the angel, if you are a good person, he will tell you if you are going to paradise. Already tell you before taking your soul away. So Hajj, tell me, somebody the angel has already given dirty slaps, according to chapter 8, verse 50. They gave him dirty slaps front and back and told him you are going to hell. And now we have his dead body. We want to go and bury. We showered him. Remember, somebody going to put under the sun. You are showering him, you are bathing him, you dress him nicely, you wear makeup, everything for him. Let's say you give him that respect. You put him in the coffin. You went and put him in front of people. You say you are going to pray for him. What are you going to do? Intercession. You are going to intervene. According to God, chapter 39, verse 43 to 44, the intercession, all intercession belongs to God entirely. You cannot intercede for anybody except God. Now, you put him there, you say you are going to pray so that God will do what? Forgive him. After the angels gave him dirty slaps before taking his soul and told him that he's going to hell. So according to the Hadith, now Hadith books is making us think that when you pray for the dead, you are going to save the dead from God after already giving him dirty slaps and telling him you are going to hell. You are now going to tell God, God, forgive him. To do what again? To change after God telling you, La mubaddila li kalimati, his word doesn't change. You are going to hell, this doesn't change. So what prayer are you going to do for the dead to save the dead again? There's no prayer. So for me, look, even if you be dead and burned, they will cremate your body. God will bring you on the day of judgment. According to Quran chapter 17, verse 49 downwards, even if you become stones, he will judge you on the day of judgment. So it doesn't matter how you are buried. So far as you are buried in a respectful manner, I approve that. But it is not the Quran who has to now tell you how to bury the dead. How was the prophet's father and mother buried? That's the question. Did they have to wait for the Quran to come? No.
Now, okay, you are listening to Africa TV and Alhaji Africa on Facebook. You are also getting us on YouTube on Africa TV. You're also getting us on TikTok on Alhaji Africa. Now, I have a question here. We are talking about the history of Hadith and its authenticity. You can give us a call at 614-598-2714 if we want to stay on the program, so we shouldn't divert and with other stuff. Now, my question is, a lot of people when they listen to you, they have the notion that or maybe the perception that maybe you don't like the prophet because hadith is the life of the prophet, that you don't like the prophet, that's why you're saying this. So what are you going to say about that?
Yeah, Haj, you see, I keep telling people when you listen to somebody reading a text or lecturing you, always, especially when it comes to matters of religion, leave emotions aside. If you are emotional, you can't handle it. If I hate the prophet, I will not use the Quran. Number one, he brought it. Number two, when you are telling people the truth, you always sound like the hater, the one who hates something. Whilst forgetting that those who are emotional are the ones who are letting the truth sound like hatred to them. I've never done a lecture where I insulted the prophet. I've never done a lecture where I'm against the prophet. As a matter of fact, if I'm against the prophet, I will never even read the Quran. I'll put it to trash if I hate the prophet. But the reason why it sounds like hatred to people, because they are emotional. They don't take their time to listen. How is it that I have respectable people over all the world listening to me? How is it that those people will waste their time listening to me if I was the one hating the prophet? Are they not Muslims? Why do they listen to me? You understand? The point is, when people hate your message, they have to now accuse you of something you haven't done. When I speak about the prophet, I try to distinguish and take away the trash attributed to him, and that is why people think I now hate him. Hajj, I just gave you the history of Hadith books. Let's be honest. Imam Bukhari, has he met the prophet?
No.
I gave you the history of Imam Bukhari. What did he had permission from the prophet?
No.
Good. I gave you the history of Imam Bukhari. Has he ever lived with the prophet?
No.
Good. Now, scholars don't tell people this. When I come in between to distinguish between the narrations and the prophet of God, they claim I'm the enemy of the prophet. Why? Because something you've been lied to think they are combined, I'm now separating them to tell you they are not combined. This person doesn't have the authority to write the biography of this man. The first person who wrote the biography of Prophet Muhammad, his name is Muhammad Aslam ibn Ishaq. He never met the prophet, but he wrote the biography of the prophet. Hajj Africa, we all came from Nima. You have been in Nima before. I was born in Nima. You know me, and now we are talking. But if I ask you to write my biography, Hajj Africa, if I don't tell you, or I don't tell you emphatically, can you write 100%?
No, but people will say maybe I can go over there and ask people about you.
Speculations, assumptions. First of all, they are not the ones who gave birth to me. They can only assume certain things about my personality. Remember, Hajj, the way my parents know me is different from the way outsiders know me. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
Good. And the way my wife knows me is different from the way my brother knows me. Do you agree?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, your friends, you can put two of your best friends on that one table. Ask them their point of view about you. I swear to God, it will never match up. Two of your best friends, put them on the same table and ask them to give you their point of view about you. It will never match up. Some things they will agree, some things they have different views, perspectives about you. So coming to the biography of somebody, first of all, I need to be the one to tell you about me. Then you can go and ascertain from an authentic source, maybe my father, my brother, my sister. This is how it works. But you don't go to outsiders. What if they hate me? How will you know? What if those people you are going to, they hate me? How will you know? Do you see my point?
No, I see your point.
In order for Imam Bukhari to be able to give you the authentic history about Prophet Muhammad, he must have met somebody who has seen the Prophet and is a family member. Has he done that? The answer is no.
Now, so what do you think that the hadith wrote about the prophet that is trash? That is not true. If you can
For
give me
instance,
just few examples.
marrying a 6-year-old girl.
Mhm.
They say it is part of Sunnah. And this hadith, it differs. Some hadiths will say 9 years, some hadiths will say 6 years, some will say even she was 18 years. Now, this is the confusion in hadith books. Now, if you claim the Prophet marrying a 6-year-old girl is a Sunnah, the first question is it in the Quran? No. No verse, single verse in the Quran which claims the Prophet married a 6-year-old girl. Secondly, the name Aisha is not in the Quran. Thirdly, according to the Quran, Prophet only married women, not girls. Women, Nisa, not girls, not a bintu. Or does he say it must say a fataya or something? No. Thirdly, people are approving such statement. This is not an example I'm giving you. I'm becoming to a delicate hadith where the hadith is insulting women and alleging it to the Prophet. I will quote it right now for you. Now, these hadith books, they have a lot of inconsistencies and hatred against the Prophet himself. There's an hadith books claiming, hadith narration claiming the Prophet wanted to sleep with somebody behind his wife. There's hadith narration claiming that the Prophet is saying that people who will be taken from hell and put in the paradise, they will be called al-Jahannameen. They will be called al-Jahannameen, means people of the hellfire are now in paradise. According to them, the Prophet says you should say salawat upon him. So the Prophet has now become an idol. You have to devote your deen to him. The Prophet himself said in Quran chapter 18, verse 110, Kul innama ana basharu mithlukum yuha ilayya annama ilahukum ilahun wahid. Then he says, فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّي فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكُ بِعِبَادَتِي رَبِّي أَحَدًا. So if the Prophet says, don't associate anyone in the worship of your Lord, and you devote your time, you say Friday, anything you want to do, Salat ala Nabi. Every time, Salat ala Nabi. And then, Sheka samu wani malum away, oh, Salat ala Nabi, akwai biyan bukata chiki. So people are idolizing the Prophet without actually paying attention. Now, Hajj, let me quote this hadith, where you can see these blasphemous sayings in this hadith.
Yeah.
According to Sahih al-Bukhari, 304, book number 6, hadith number 9, narrated by Abu Said al-Khudr. He says, once the messenger of God went out to the musalla of the Eid al-Adha, he is going to pray. Then he passed by the women and said, "O women, give charity, give alms, as I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of hell were you women." So according to this hadith, he's saying women will be a lot in hellfire. And some scholars obviously believe this. I'm surprised. Then he says, they ask, why is it so? God's messenger said, he replied, you curse frequently. He says women curse people frequently and are ungrateful to your husbands. He's telling women they are ungrateful to their husbands. And I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence. He's telling the women they lack intelligence. This is the hadith book, Sahih al-Bukhari. And religion. He says women are weak in deficiency in intelligence and religion than you. A cautious, sensible man could be led astray by some of you. He's accusing women of being devils to mislead people. The woman asked, "Oh, Allah's messenger, what is deficiency in our intelligence and religion?" He said, "Is not the evidence of 2 women equal to the witness of 1 man?" They replied in affirmative, meaning they approve, yes. He said, this is the deficiency in her intelligence. So according to him, the reason why God says 2 women should bear witness, it means she lacks deficiency. Is that what God says? No. Isn't it true that a woman can neither pray nor fast during her menses? The women replied in the affirmative. He said, this is the deficiency in a religion. What do you mean by this? This is in Sahih al-Bukhari book. And I quote the reference for you. And anybody is saying, oh, it's like, I have the hadith books, all the volume of Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Jamiat. I have the full volumes from volume 1 to verse 9. I check it myself. I read it myself. I've been to madrasa. I've studied Qala Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I've studied hadith books myself. Right? Now, these are the books claiming they explain the Quran. Now tell me which verse of the Quran does this book explain? This hadith I just quote. Which verse of the Quran? I dare any scholar to come out and show me which verse of the Quran this narration explains. Now, this is what I do, and they say I'm the enemy of the Prophet. I'm only defending the Prophet from the lies being attributed to him. This is my job. The reason why I call myself correctional officer, it is to lead, to teach the intelligent people to the truth in religion. I'm not here to convince people with emotions. If you're emotional, you can't listen to me. I only deal with the truth, and you say if I'm lying, come let's sit down one-on-one and get your ass roasted.
Now, my next question to you is, so this is one of the examples of the, what do you call it, of the things that you think that the hadith is saying about Prophet that is wrong.
I would say this is some of the things. The foundation of the hadith itself, I can strike it down. It doesn't stand the test of time. Do you know why? Number one, hadiths need an authority from the Prophet. Ask any scholar, where did the Prophet give the authority for Sahih Bukhari books to exist? It doesn't exist. That's number one failure. Number two, who gave the authority of classification that this is Sahih, this is Da'if, this is Hassan, this is Qudsi? Who gave the classification? The Prophet doesn't know about this. That is a flawed argument, number two. Number three, the rules they put up, the isnad and everything, the chain of narration, these rules are not coming from the Prophet. It wasn't the Prophet who gave them this criteria to check all these books. So if in the hadith books you can have da'if, you can have lies there. And God is now telling you in the Quran, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجِدُوهُ فِيهِ اِخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. According to God, you can never find contradictions in the Quran. Ask any hadith follower, can I find contradictions in the hadith? They will tell you yes. So it's obvious, one is not from God and one is from the people. Hadith is from the people, and they are trying to put it in the deen of God. So now, to simplify this question you just answered, ask Quran chapter 45, verse 6 to verse 8. God says, Tilka ayatullahi natluha alayka bilhaq. فبأي حديث بعد الله وآياته يؤمنون ويل لكل أفاك أثيم يسمع آيات الله تتلى عليه ثم يصر مستكبرا كأن لم يسمعها فبشرهم بعذاب أليم. God says, these are the verses of God which we recite to you in truth or with the truth. In which hadith, narration, discourse, talk, event, conversation, translate it as whatever you want it to be. In which hadith, after Allah and his ayat? The question is, the books of hadith, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, are they the ayat of God? The answer is no. So in which hadith, after God and his verses, will they believe? So now the question is to you and I. Am I going to say I believe in Sahih Bukhari? Did the Prophet give me Sahih Bukhari? No. Sahih Muslim? No. So who gave me? The scholars. The ulama, they give us these books, not the Prophet. Then verse 7. Wailul likulli affakin athim. Woe to every sinful liar. Who are those? The ones who are going to defend the hadith, right? Yasmahu ayatillahi. It didn't say Yasmahu Sahih Bukhari. Yasmahu Sahih Muslim. Yasmahu ayatillahi tutula alayhi. Hajj, you and I'm reciting the verses of God to you from the Quran. It wasn't from any other book. So God says, ثُمَّ يُسِرُّ مُسْتَكْبِرًا. Then he insists arrogantly, كَأَنْ لَمْ يَسْمَعْهَا, as if he has not heard the verses of God. Then God says, فَبَشِّرْهُ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ, and give him news of a painful punishment. So now God is asking me, in which hadith after God and his verses will I believe? And I said, only the Quran. And you said, I'm a kafir. I hate the Prophet. So are you telling me the Prophet wants me to believe in Sahih Bukhari hadith? Hatu bur'anakum. I'm waiting. Do you get the logic here, Hajj? That is my stance.
Wow. So, so you mean you don't believe in salatu to the Prophet, like the way they say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadi, and all those stuff?
Yeah, it is a misconception. And it's a mistranslated verse. Chapter 33, verse 56. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. They lie to the people. It doesn't mean what they made it mean. You understand? Let me tell you how it works.
Okay.
They are making you say salat ala nabi, right? What does it mean, salat ala nabi? The scholars will tell you are sending peace and blessings. First of all, the word salat doesn't mean peace.
Yeah.
Salam means peace. Salatu doesn't mean blessings. Baraka, when you say baraka or barak, that is what it means, what? Blessing in Arabic. So the word salat doesn't mean blessings. So they will say peace and blessings be upon the Prophet. People have been duped. This is why anything you are asked to do, find the source first. Now, let's assume it is peace and blessings be upon the Prophet. Now God says, Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. So God and his angels, they send peace and blessings upon the Prophet. Let's assume that is the case. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Then the scholar says, you who believe, you have to also send peace and blessings upon the Prophet. Now this is the illogical part. How do people send peace and blessings to the Prophet? They will come and then now come to the salat and then they will say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Oh, the last time I checked the verse, it didn't say ali Muhammad in that verse. It only say, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. It didn't say wa alihi in that verse. So let's assume it is about the Prophet. Where did the wa ali Muhammad come from? That is number one problem. Number two, God already said he and his angels are sending the blessings. If you mean sending blessings, they are already sending blessings. You came again, you are telling God, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The illogical part is, if God already is sending blessings, why are you now telling God again, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad? God, send blessings again to Muhammad. God is already doing it. He only told you, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi. People don't understand what sallu alayhi is. This is the act of support, to reach out to the Prophet, support him. It is talking to the believers at that time, not at our time. Have you met the Prophet? How do you send blessings to a person God has already approved? It is obvious to you and I that Prophet Muhammad is going to Jannah. What blessings does he need from you and I? We rather need blessings from him. People have misunderstood the verse because Hadith is telling them otherwise. They believe the Hadith, not the Quran. Quran chapter 9, verse 103. The Prophet was asked to do the Salli alayhi to the believers. It has nothing to do with sending blessings. Do you get my point? Quran chapter 33, verse 43. هو الذي يصلي عليكم وملائكته ليخرجكم من الظلمات إلى النور. He, God, has already been doing it for the believer. It is not about sending blessings. It is about reaching out, supporting believers, or support the Prophet, reach out to him. So it is not about to send blessings. What does the Prophet need your blessings for? Hajj, to simplify this, we and the Prophet, who is more blessed?
He's the one who's blessed.
So who deserves to send the blessings to each other?
Yeah, he sends the blessings to us.
Simple. I'm only telling people, the correctional officer is not here to be a preacher. I'm only here to lecture the intelligent people to the truth in religion. If you're willing to follow the truth, put emotions aside, check the text. I will help you to scrutinize everything you have been taught. If any scholar says I'm misleading the people, I'm available for a dialogue. Thank you.
Now, if somebody is trying to convert to Islam, what is the process? Since you're thinking about Sahara is different from what people know. So what do we do? What is the right way to do it?
Number one, Shahada doesn't make a person a Muslim. If anybody thinks if you say Shahada, it makes you a Muslim, that is a flawed argument, right? A Christian can just get up to say Ashadu, Allah ilaha illallah wa ashadu, Anna Muhammadan abdu wa rasuluhu. What makes him a Muslim? Quran chapter 2 verse 8. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَقُولُ آمَنَّا بِاللَّهِ وَبِالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ وَمَا هُمْ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. People who say we believe in God and the last day, but they are not believers. Your acts, your actions, your heart, nobody knows but God. How do you become a Muslim? We saw Ibrahim alayhi salam, Quran chapter 2 verse 131. When God told him Aslim, he said to God, Aslamtu li Rabbil Alameen. You have to submit your will to God. What you need to ask anybody who wants to be a Muslim is, do you want to submit your will to God? Yes, I do. He will now practice what God asked him to do. The Quran is the word of God. Give him what God says. Is he willing to submit? Yes, he's willing to submit. This is the criteria of what makes a person a Muslim. You don't become a Muslim by just saying a word. It doesn't exist. So God says in Quran chapter 2, verse 284, right? It says, Lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard. Wa in tubdu ma fi anfusikum aw tukhfu yuhasibukum billah. Then he says, فَيَغْفِرُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيُعَذِّبُ مَنْ يَشَاءُ وَاللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. It says, to God belongs whatever is in the heavens and whatever is on earth. And if you should manifest whatever is in your bosoms, or you conceal it, God will bring you to reckoning. He will bring you to account for it. So a person can just come verbally and say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. He's not a Muslim. That doesn't classify you as a Muslim. If it was a Muslim, God will have told us in the Quran that people would do it. As a matter of fact, you never find in the Quran where it say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. I'm not saying if you say la ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah is wrong. No. If you say ashadu in front of the Muhammad and ashadu, an la ilaha illallah wa ashadu anna Muhammad, and that is what I said, it is wrong. Because you never bore witness when Muhammad was a messenger. But if you say la ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasul, there's nothing wrong. Quran chapter 48 verse 29, Muhammad Rasulullah is mentioned. Quran chapter 37 verse 35, la ilaha illallah is mentioned. So if you say la ilaha illallah is found in the Quran, Muhammad Rasulullah is found in the Quran. But saying ashadu, who asked you to do that? Prophet never asked anybody to say ashadu. It doesn't exist in the Quran. Remember, the Quran is hudan linnas. It's a book of guidance for the people, not for the Arabs. And if it's for the Arabs, who is Imam Bukhari? Was he an Arab? No. Imam Muslim, Sahih Muslim, was he an Arab? No. They were Persians. So is it a Persian who has to write a book to tell me what Islam needs to be done?
Now, my question here is, we've heard a lot of imams and scholars saying that if somebody's going to die and they say, because you're saying we shouldn't say la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they're saying that if somebody's going to die, he does the shahada, he gets pardon. So what is your take on that?
That is another misconception. If you go to Quran chapter 10 verse 90, now listen to the statement. Hajj, you said, the Imam said, the scholar said, if you are going to die, and you say what? The shahada.
Yeah, now.
That you go to what?
You're going to be pardoned.
You go to be pardoned. Okay, let's check if this can stand the test of time. Chapter 10 verse 90, Fir'auna, the time of Musa alayhi salam. Quran chapter 10 verse 90. What happened? When he was attacking the children of Israel, and they parted the sea and they were going, he chased them in the middle of the sea to catch them. When he reached there, God made the sea came together, right? This is what he said. He says, Qala, Amantu annahu la ilaha illa allazi ahmanat bihi banu Israila wa ana min al-muslimin. Then God told him in verse 91, Al-an, today, now, وَقَدْ أَصَيْتَ قَبْلُ وَكُنْتَ مِنَ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. Is it today you will come and say La ilaha illallah? Is it today you come and say Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah? You bear witness? Where did the scholars get this concept from? Pharaoh was dying. He said, listen what he said. Qala, amantu, I believe, annahu, that la ilaha illallazi, that there is no ilaha except the one, amanat, the children of Israel, bihi banu Israela, believe, wa ana min al-muslim, that I am of the Muslims. He said this. Do you know what God told him? Now, so you waited till you are going to die? Who told you that? So let me debunk this claim. Quran chapter 4, verse 17 to 18. Listen what God says. It doesn't hold when you wait till death comes before you are going to become a believer. It doesn't work. According to God, innama tawbatu ala Allahi lillazina yamaluna su bijahalatin. Then he says, thumma yatubuna min karibin. So you have to what? Repent before. Then he says what? For ulaika yatubu alayhi. You have to repent whilst we are still alive. Meaning you have to do it before. You don't have to wait till death comes before you say you repent. It doesn't work. Then God says, وَكَانَ اللَّهَ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. Now listen what the two he doesn't accept. Well, then he says, وَلَيْسَتِ تَوْبَةُ لِلَّذِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ سَيِّئَاتٍ. As for those who repent, those who are doing what? Bad deeds. Hatta iza hadaral ahadahum al-maut. When death comes to one of you, you have been doing the sins. When death comes, now you are going to say, Kala, inni tubtul ana. Is it now you are going to repent? Wala lazina yamutuna wahum kuffar. No, those who die while they are disbelievers, or those who wait when the death comes before they say they have repented. God will not accept this. Quran chapter 4, verse 18. He will never accept that. So if you have done all the sins, you haven't done the good works, you waited last minute, last show, you want to now come and say, La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. No, Hajj, it doesn't work.
I have a question. Somebody has a question on Facebook. He's asking, how do you perform Ramadan according to the Quran?
How do you what?
Perform Ramadan according to the Quran.
Oh, it's very easy. I have the full lectures. I've done the full lectures, but it's very easy. You can find how to do Ramadan in Quran chapter 2, verse 183, 184, 185, 186, 187. It's mentioned the concept of Ramadan there. Ramadan is the month, the name of the month. Sharu Ramadan is the month where the Quran was revealed. You find it on the Arabian calendar, which is the Hijr calendar. It is the 9th month, right? And we are having it, I think, in about 2 weeks' time or so. Now, that month, what you practice in that month is the Siyam. So Siyam is the abstinence. When we say abstinence, it's not only about food and water. So people will call it fasting. I will not say only fasting. It is abstinence. Now, Quran chapter 2, verse 183, God says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, kutiba alaykumus siyam kama kutiba alal lazina min qablikum. Then he says, la'allakum tattaqun. Ask the majority of the people, why do you fast? They don't know. You only do abstinence so that you may attain what? Piousness. It gives you taqwa. Remember, the Quran is to serve the purpose of guidance for those who are what? Muttaqin. So, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So, Ramadan, the month of Ramadan, the Siyam is to help you to have piousness, to get closer to God. So you will learn how to abstain from certain things God has forbidden you. It is like a practice to help you become a good person. So God has what? Prescribed. So when we say kutiba, kutiba comes from the word kataba. So God has already it's prescribed for us in the Quran. So we find it there. So when we say siyam, it is abstinence. You avoid from drinking water, eating, you abstain from sexual acts, immoral acts, any act that can make you corrupt. You avoid that. The food and the water is the notion of refraining you. You are in the pious state. It is the beneficial is beyond imagination, right? Now, to do the Siyam, I'm going to explain in Quran chapter 2, verse 187. Now, God says you have to eat and drink during the night time when it's dark. You can eat and drink, you can sleep with your wives, you can do anything you want with your wives during the night time. Then from dawn, when you see the white thread in the sky, when it's dawn, you know when Fajr, Al-Fijr, if out of the white biyad.
No.
When it comes out, you stop eating or you stop anything you want to do. Then now you are going to start the Siyam, the abstinence. So you are going to abstain from lusting after your wives. You are going to abstain from eating, abstain from drinking, and any other act that can corrupt you in terms of your pious act. So you stop that. Now what happens? You are going to do the abstinence throughout the day until what? Night. So God says in the chapter 2, verse 187, He's telling you what to do. Now, what people fail to realize in that verse is, God says, Thumma atimu siyama ila al-layl. So you conclude, when we say atim, it comes from the word tammat, like tamam, to complete something, to make something fulfilled. So God says you should complete the siyam, this abstinence, complete it at what? At night. He didn't say at maghrib. God in his infinite wisdom didn't say ila al-maghrib. He says what? Ila al-layl. And layl is the darkness time, when it's very dark outside. It's getting dark. So that is the time you break your fast, the abstinence. That is the simple form of siyam. So there's no notion of any extra things they keep telling you, unless if they want to mention about when you break your fast, you have to pay. There's nothing like you have to pay, make up for other days. There's something we call fidya to ta'am in miskin as a what? Ransom. This fidya, if you cannot do the siyam and you are struggling, you can ransom it by feeding a poor person, and that is enough. There's nothing like you have to wait after Ramadan, then you do some other days. No. Chapter 2, verse 184. I have full breakdown on my YouTube channel. Whoever is interested can get it.
We can just go to that. Salaam alaikum. I'm Sawake Magana. Ayuba, Bismillah. From Australia.
Ayuba, one love. Ayuba, one love. I'm Sawa.
Na Bismillah, muna jin tambayanka.
Naji Baba, ya yi bayani cewa kaga kuma cikin bayanan shi na ga kamar muna da wasu questions da muke da shi da muke so tambaye su Allah ya yarda.
Bismillah.
Cikin magana shi ya yi batun hadisai, yace hadisi sahih Buhari, amma volume su na da yawa ma ya fi Qur'ani. Dangane da question da suke ce tambaye shi kamar ba. Yau Africa, program ne ka zo ka yi da na ce da ni koro ma wani kamar shi kamar da ni koro ma wani kamar ga abin da Africa da ba ba su ka su kan program. Ko ya kai ni cikin korowa nan da zan koro duka abin da kuka yi from A to Z. Dole na waya yawa shi program da kuka yi. Ina min kamar kana gane point da kuke trying to do.
Haka na'am.
Kamar na waya yawa. Magana ne a yawa shi mutanen da kuka yi da.
We don't care about more details, you know.
Yes, na ba da more details. So the hadisan na dole su yawa ki Qur'ani saboda explanation ya zo cikin magana guda aka yi kamar yadda aka ce kamar an ce kullu wallahu ahad. Da ka explain what is kullu wallahu ahad. Da ka zana malan shi ya yi yawa ya ci west kullu wallahu ahad. Agari.
Da.
Sa wurin da muke so ya gane kamar tafsiri ya yi yawa ayan Qur'ani kamar shi baba da kan shi na faɗo kamar ina da tafsirin Qur'ani da ya dana za a yi faɗo kamar tafsirin da ya dana na yawa ya Qur'ani na ba ko shi ne question
Ina ka kare question ta saboda mu mu bai wani kuma.
So question na da yawa.
Kaji tambayan shi.
bari amsan shi. Ko da yake yan TikTok wai ba su jin point.
Na kafo da wurin saboda su.
Aha. Ayuba one love na gode kwarai. Na san Ayuba ni da ka san mu duka guda ne. The point is, Ayuba, abinda mutane ba su understand. Na farko ni ban da tafsirin Qur'ani. In aka ce tafsirin Qur'ani, explanation of the Quran ko the commentary of the Quran. Quran da kanshi da tafsirin kanshi. Ni abinda nake yi ne ina fito da mutane abinda su ba su gani ba. Shi ne fito da shi. Ni na wake na. Amma kana explain wai abin da yasa hadisi dai yawa. Na farko hadisi ba littafin Allah ba. Cikin ilimin Allah. Ban sani ba ko dai cikin
don kai cikin turanci saboda wayanda ke ga su ji na.
The caller was asking. He said he heard me say the hadith books they are more in compilation and more in pages because they are the explanation of the Quran. That's why they are more. And I'm trying to let him understand that. Number one, hadith books are not the tafsir of the Quran. They are not the exegesis of the Quran. The exegesis of the Quran, you can get it by Ibn Kathir, Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn At-Tabari, and then Ibn Abbas, according to the scholars. This is what they call the tafsir of the Quran. I don't believe in those books because I have flaws. They have flaws there. But then, what I want the caller to understand is the hadith books are not the words of God. However, the Quran claiming to be from God, it says in Quran chapter 18, verse 109. لو كان البحر مدادا لكلمات ربي لنفد البحر قبل أن تنفد كلمات ربي ولو جئنا بمثله مددا. If only the sea were ink for the words of my Lord, the sea will run out before the words of my Lord runs out, even if we brought the like of it in supply. So if God wanted, he could have made the books, the Quran, about 1 million pages. But because he wants simplicity for you in Islam, Quran chapter 22, verse 78, he says, Uwa ajtabakum wa ma ja'ala alaykum fid din min haraj. He has chosen you and has not placed any difficulty upon you in the deen. He decided to make a simple book where you can find even the tafsir in the Quran. Quran chapter 25, verse 33. وَلَا يَأْتُونَكَ بِمَثَلٍ إِلَّا جِنَاكَ بِالْحَقِّ وَأَحْسَنَ التَّفْسِيرَ. The Quran has its own tafsir. So I don't need to go outside the Quran to go and read jumbles of books before coming to understand the Quran. So that is the first answer to the caller.
Now, kaji maganar da yayi. Hello?
Cime iya buga playback na yaji.
Da wani mai tambaya ka kuma na biyu yana min connection ne.
Ban ci magana ce ban ci haskan bai bayar ba ni ban ci magana ina magana
ce mai playback in yaji playback na yaji.
Saboda karin lokaci bari mu je next question ka. In ka kare kai ka buga sai ka ji saboda kan mu ci lokaci ya hankuri.
Kana da fitattun kamar ba ka ba da ne yana yes da ni ina da wani magana da ni da kudi like magana da yanki na ka na tambaye ko shi ba ni ba da haka ba shi ba ko shi da bai amfani ba shi na da duk ban ci magana
ka summarize me real quick ka summarize me
Kona summarize, it depends in the energy because not organized because of video akwai playback. Sama inda shi bai ji na still we are the same.
Ba yana ji ya fita kan line ne yanzu kuma komai.
No, Africa. I know.
No, take it Aj. Chema ask next call. Ask next one. Next question.
Abin ga saboda ka gura ɗinka.
Okay, next question. That's Surah Al-Jumu'ah. أنا آية التي هو الذي بعث في الأميين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته ويزكيهم ويعلمهم الكتاب والحكمة. نقول باي.
muna ji.
Ina so ya bani ma'ana ayar nan kawai wal hikma.
Wai na son ma'ana ayar
Okay, ba da One love kana ji na yanzu kana ji ina ji.
Yanzu kamar na jinka ala ta fi ka zo Allah kamar in ci shi saboda yayin magana ya fi samu kuma yin magana amma ban ci shi ina min kamar na tambayar ko shi da amfani.
Chema Ayuba by dialogue muka zo yin ba question yake tambaya zan answer shi. Huwa allazi basa fil ummiyina rasulan minhum yatlu alaihim ayatihi wa yuzakkihim wa yuallimuhum alkitaba wal hikma wa in kanu min qabli lafi dalalin mubin. Huwa allazi, he is the one who has raised or sent. When we say ba'atha, somebody who has been sent or raised among his people. Fil ummiyina. When we say ummiyina, they are the unlearned ones, the unlettered who never received a book from God, so they have no idea what God says in his book. They are the ummiyina. According to sectarians, they will say they are the illiterates or whatever. No, I don't agree with that. But then Rasulan, he's a messenger. Minhum, from them. Yatlu alayhim, reciting to them the verses of God. Then he says, وَيُزَكِّيهُمْ, that is to purify, to vindicate them. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ, al-kitab, when we say al-kitab, it comes from kataba, to write down and have a complete sheet of papers. So the book. Wal-hikmah, which is found in Quran chapter 17. I'll be going to that point to tell him what the hikmah is. وَإِن كَانُوا مِن قَبْلِ لَفِي دَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ, while they were what? In error before that. They were in a clear error. Now, he wants to know what the al-kitab is and what the hikmah is. This hikmah is the wisdom according to God found in the Quran. Where can we find the hikmah? You go to Quran chapter 17, you read from verse 22 and you read up to verse 39. And remember, this al-hikmah didn't start with Prophet Muhammad. It is with Ibrahim alayhi salam, Quran chapter 4 verse 54. He also was given the al-hikmah. And likewise, Prophet Muhammad was given the al-hikmah in Quran chapter 4 verse 113. God has taught him the al-hikmah. So now the answer is in Quran chapter 17 verse 39, where God says, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. Then he says, وَلَا تجعل مع الله إلها آخر فتلقى في جهنم ملوما مدحورا. So the hikmah is found in the Quran, not outside the Quran. So are you Bakaji explanation?
Ya soka correct. Ya soka kan wangan. Yanzu ga noise. Yanzu ga noise soka. Yanzu ga so. Don sai na so interrupt kaman cikin maganan kana da magace na ce bare ka sauka before ya tambaya don bai interruption ka.
Exactly. Kuma ba debate ba ko dialogue balle ce zai counter na ko wani platform na nan yana son tambaye ni question, I'm there, he can come also.
Yeah, ina da hold on. Kaji maganan da yi.
Africa amma ban ci shi amma na ka gane amma inda ni ba da ni ba ya gano shi saboda ilimi na bai kai ilimi shi ba gaskiya tsakanin da Allah ba a lokacin na ta yana shi ba kan program muna ji shi sai mu muna so babu yanda ta muna ji shi muna da bashi da muke da shi da mu tafi saboda wani wuri muna kila da mu tafi shi da Allah da yana shi ba ina so ya tsaka amma program na Africa ya suka bar wanda ko na ga cin wanda ke ba da bayani da ke bakan ba shi zai understand how to take it.
Yana kana ya fito wata kala wurin kan nan ne.
No. Kuma ne ji ina kamar ga wifi kuma na kai on da call kamar na call ka da from Australia to America ni call na da da call ka free call. Sannan call ka direct sa WhatsApp. Kaga ne sannan ci program da kai. Okay. Ya yi batu wurin kitaba wani hikima wurin na yi batu kitabu shi ne littafi Allah shi ne Qur'an wani hikiman na shi ne ke so hikiman na wani hikima in an ce kamar balarabe ya ce kamar hausa ka ce Afirka da baba na program ke zama abu da kuma ba kamar yau Afirka ce da baba ke kan program na yi na zo kai na ce Afirka na program ke kada ke program da amma na ce Afirka da baba suna program abu ke kana gane ni
na understand ka
wannan ayan nan ya ce kitabu wal hikma ita ne ce kitabu na shi kuma azkar wal hikma ya zama abu biyu ka gane to hikiman nan shi manzo Allah ne zai karantar da mu a Qur'ani ya fi kare hikima shi ne hikimar shi ta yau ba ka ce wai kamar manzo Allah yadda aka karanta da Qur'ani aka rubuta ce Allah ya ce kullu Allahu Allahu samad lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad to ke shaka no lakin hikimar shi gura mu ya Allah ke gura wa kullu Allahu Allahu samad ne a gane shi ta shi ne hikimar shi ta bare da shi kamar babu wal hikma abu guda ka dai Qur'ani nan no shi kuma dan kara wal da kuma wai alkitabu wal hikma ita da babu ita wurin da nake so baba yi walwale mu da amma ina walwale wata banki balle ina da magana ne ka gane
saboda lokaci okay summarize mai ba so in duba yadda zamu summarize mai to kai ka saya kai ka ji kai ka saya kai kai
the best solution ne in yi tambayar best person nan da sai so ka ji shi kuma kira ba shi ka fuke shi yaso ya same ji kan platform shi ya ji wurin shi kaga yayi better in yi sai kan ya ji jiki shi sai yi so ka ya ji ni yanzu shi kuma
ya so ka kai
exactly that's best shi yasa based on tambayan da yake yin nan bari Ayuba ya understand abu guda cikin turanci akwai abin da ake kiran shi content is like suna cewa content is like water. Content kaman ruwa yake. If you put water in a glass, this or let's say in a cup, what you call it is the cup. If you put a writing on a sheet of paper and join it together, we call it the book. If you put a recitation, if you recite something from your memory and you put it into a book, we call it the reading. If you put a remembrance into a book, it becomes the reminder. Now, what people fail to realize it, when God says, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, they thought is two different things. However, they forgot that the book is something you have to write down to have a content inside before it becomes the book. So when God says, teach them the book and the hikmah, they think the hikmah is another book or something different. So to them, they think hikmah means sunnah or hadith. Now, this is the flaw I'm going to show them there. When you go to Quran chapter 3, verse 48, Isa alayhi salam, God says, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَيُعَلِّمُهُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَالتَّوْرَةَ وَالْإِنْجِيلَ. Now, you see in this chapter 3, verse 48, Isa alayhi salam is saying, God is telling Isa that he will teach him the Al-Kitab, and then teach him the Al-Hikmah, and then teach him the At-Tawrah, and then teach him the Al-Injil. But when you take Quran chapter 19, verse 30, Isa alayhi salam, he summarized this into one. This is what he says. He said, Inni Abdullah. Qala Inni Abdullah. Atani al-kitaba wa ja'alani nabiyya. He says, God, I'm the servant of God. Indeed, I am the servant of God. He has given me the Al-Kitab and has made me a prophet. Now, this Al-Kitab, when you have to write something in the sheets of paper and join it together, it becomes the book, Al-Kitab. Now, he said the Quran, when God says, وَيُعَلِّمُهُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ, it means the Quran. No, Al-Kitab doesn't mean the Quran. However, you get the Quran in the Al-Kitab. Quran chapter 56, verse 77 to verse 78. He says, إِنَّهُ لَقُرْآنِ الْكَرِيمِ فِي كِتَابٍ مَكْنُونٍ. So the Quran, you find it in the Kitab. When it's written, then it becomes a context. So it becomes the Al-Kitab. You can find the Quran in the Al-Kitab, and you can find the Al-Hikmah in the Kitab. So Quran chapter 17, verse 39, it says, ذَلِكَ مِمَّا أَوْحَى إِلَيْكَ رَبُّكَ مِنَ الْحِكْمَةِ. The Hikmah is also in the Al-Kitab. However, you get the Quran in the Al-Kitab, and you get what? The Hikmah in the Al-Kitab. So this is what people don't understand. They thought it's two separate things. You understand? So this is the answer to his question.
No, he didn't come back, so I'm hoping that he'll come back and listen.
Yeah, if he come back, we pick him again.
Okay, all right. So as you've explained to him, so my next question here is still with the hadith. What they call it, Sayyid Buhari, his hadith is the top one that everybody agrees with any free.
He's the epitome of Hadith books. Yeah.
Yeah, that everybody. What about Islam?
Say Muslim.
It's Muslim. Sorry, hold on. I think he's back. Let's see if I can get him. Salaam alaikum. Salaam alaikum. Kana ji na? Yadda zai yi ni ba. Hold on. Na doke ka direct instead of through the mic. Kaji. Iso ka. Kai muna bayani. Iso.
Haj, na jinka from TikTok, amma ban jinka kan live na. Na jinka kan TikTok, amma ban jinka kan main live program.
Okay, all right,
no, Haj, yayi dai, amma ban da show viewers nan su ya su ji ni. Kai ka tambayi viewers in dai
yanzu kuna ji na Baba nake gura, Baba Shahab kana ji na yanzu ai.
Yanzu na jinka.
Okay, na bismillah yanzu ina jinka. Bari burin ke tashi karan domin burin kana da very low. Muna jin ka burin kana da low ne amma muna jin ka. Baba Shabu kaji magana shi, did you hear him? He said
na ji shi ban tambaye shi yana ji na.
Yana jin ka sosai. Yana jin ka.
Number one, Ayuba, in yana karanta littafi, akwai abin da ake kiran shi context, siyak al-kalam, context yana da important. Verse 1, in yaka connect da verse 2, ba inda aka mention harafi ko hurufin da kaliman da ake kiran Qur'ani, ba shi cikin wannan aya. Sannan, for years of studying Qur'ani na, kada ga Qur'ani Allah ya bambanta abin da ake kiran al-Qur'ani da abin da ake kiran al-kitab. There is a difference. Al-Qur'an and al-kitab. However, you can find one in the other. Quran chapter 10 verse 37. Allah ya kira Qur'ani. Kagani, he mentioned Quran, but he made you know the Quran is the tafsil al-kitab. Quran is the one to elaborate the al-kitab. So al-kitab on its own is a different concept from the Quran. However, you can find Quran in the al-kitab. Just like zikra, the word zikra, you can find a zikra in the Quran. Chapter 38 verse 1. Su'ad wal Quran zi zikr. So in the Quran, you get what we call a zikra. So what people don't understand is when God mentioned al-kitab wal hikmah, they think al-kitab, then they automatically say that's the Quran, and then they will say we can get al-hikmah somewhere else. No. Chapter 62 verse 1 to verse 2 has no notion of the word al-Quran there. So I don't know where the caller got the notion that there is al-Quran mentioned there. There is no al-Quran then. So God says, he says what? He says, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. He didn't say, وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْقُرْآنِ وَالْحِكْمَةِ. So understand this logic here. We are using the words of God, not the words of men.
Did you understand him?
Okay, bari je next question.
Okay, bari mu je next question. Ina ga wangan gaba ina da mu understand juna. Eh.
Bari mu je next question.
Okay.
Ina so in bani bayani kuma ya bada bayani kun bada bayani inna Allah wa malaikatu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhal ladina amanu sallu alaihi wa sallimu taslima. Kaga ne shi ce wai kamar mu yake mu dole albarkan wanda ba da mu yake mu dole albarkan mu walla ko ba shi ci ko wala ko shi ce da mu bile shi ba mu mu dole bile shi da Allah idan Allah ya bile shi Allah ya ce ba inna Allah wai tani da ni Allah da malaikuna kaga ne muna yi ma annabi salatu kaga ne ai ni da malaiku suna na Allah salatu shi kuma ce ya ayyuhan ladina amanu kaga ne ya ku wanda suka yi imani kaga ba fara yin musulmai normal musulmai kawai wanda suka yi imani da Allah ya ayyuhan ladina amanu sallu alaihi wa sallam kaga ne shi kuma annabi kuma salatu nan ganga ayat da yadda babu ya yi shi yake ne kamar ya ce mutu ne shi ne ya Allah to ba shi ya da kai ne mutum Allah ya ba shi aljanna ne ta da kai ne abubuwa da abubuwa okay manzo Allah da kanshi da Allah ya yi shi kuma ya kawo mu cikin Qur'ani yake amma kamar ya fade wannan ayat shi kuma ya ce mu kamar ya ayyuhan ladina amanu kun ya kun wadanda kun kuka imani da Allah a gani sallu alaihi wa sallam taslima wannan annabi salati nan ga ayat na kun da yake fadi wa karrati wanga larabci ya ayyuhan ladina ba na rashi from English ko wani wanda ya ayyuhan ladina amanu ya ku wadanda kuka imani da Allah sallu alaihi wa sallam taslima kagani
na gane sabar mu bari an samu question na ya baba sab ka ji magan da fadi
na ji shi I think the problem Ayuba bai understand the explanation in the Bible because na ga yana misquote na ababen na fadi. He didn't understand my explanation concerning chapter 33 verse 56 because the caller failed to realize that if I should ask him how did God and his angels do the salati, he kept saying salati, and when we say salat is only meant for God. Quran chapter 6 verse 162, the prophet himself says kul inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbil alamin. So salati is only for God. However, sectarians have been taught to think that when you say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, that means you are sending salat to the prophet. That is not the notion. So if God says, say, Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi, that's a different concept. It is not the same as salat. Sallu ala, there's a tasrif there. This is explaining an action which is different from the word akimu salat or salat. Okay. So what they understand is Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. If you ask the sectarians, how does God do his salat ala nabi? According to them, they cannot explain. They will only say he sent blessings. How does he send blessings? They don't know. Then now you are saying the believers are the ones who has to send blessings. How are the believers sending the blessings? That is the question I explained earlier. If you claim they are sending blessings, then I said there is inconsistency in that logic. You understand? That is the claim I made. So I guess the caller didn't understand the explanation.
Yeah, he said he has a last question and then he can step down. Okay, what is the last question?
Yeah, last question is Baba ya ce kamar na kamar da yake ci shi yana mun kamar yayi magana kamar cikin hadisi ba da mutum ko da araka ko da abin mu dai na kallon na so yana da ko mai da saboda ba su
he said when you explained earlier, you said in Quran there's no way.
No, I said in the Quran there was no
Quran, not Hadith. He doesn't believe Hadith, so once he doesn't believe in Hadith, there's nothing he's going to say about Hadith. Yeah.
Ba haka na fadi ba.
Ba haka ya fadi ba, wai cikin Qur'ani.
Cikin Qur'ani na fadi ban ce hadisi.
Domin yana refer to Qur'ani ba hadisi ba, tun da shi bai yarda da hadisin ba ya. Na. No, wait, inda aka gwada sallah karara kaman from tare kama har a kare sallah ba hadisin da ya gwada duka gaba daya, an ciccire wurare ne kadan saka gama.
Exactly.
Abin da ya ce kenan. No, kamar yadda ake takatun tare kama har a yi sallah, a yi sujada, a yi ruku, a yi sujada da sauran, a yi tayya da sauransu nan. Wai ba hadisin da ya gwada duka haka nan wuri guda. Amma an je an choose ne kamar an doki kadan wurin danga, a doki kadan na, a doki kadan na, a doki sha gama. Aka ce wai an doki kadan na, aka doki kadan na, aka doki kadan na, saka ka gama, shi aka san mai da shi sallah. Amma ba abin da ya gwada karara kamar from tare kama har a kare sallah. Ne kana so na nemi lokacin ka kai da shi ku zo kai so guda ne kana so. To shi ne bari baka kaje ka buga ball, Allah ya kiyaye. Okay,
Ayuba one love. Nagode. Mun ji juna.
I mean, wurin nan bai, I think he did not understand it. Now, because of the sake of time, I think we're going to call it a night. I don't know, because we've spent almost over 2 hours, right?
2 hours. I ka ba last call. Ndi ako wani watakila ko from English side in wannan so call.
No, wani bai shigo. Lokacin da yake magana nan mu wani ya shigo. Amma yanzu wani aka bai shigo. If anybody wants to
last question. Watakila
last question, we could pick your call last question. You could call us on 614-598-2714. Let me just tag the number again and see if
Koda yake kun dai kan Facebook kuma wani na da question da ya type.
Yeah, if there's anybody who has a question on Facebook, let's see if there's any question on Facebook that we can bring on board, the person can, or you can give us a call. Like I said, we'll pick your call.
Yeah. Sorry to some of the viewers on TikTok. Unfortunately, some of the callers, when they call, you cannot hear. So sorry, I apologize.
Yeah, we got it fixed. We'll get it fixed, inshallah, from here on, and then we'll get it fixed, and then we'll take care of it. Like it's 614-598-2714. So if anybody wants to give us a call, we'll pick a last caller and then we'll take it from there. 598-2714. Okay, let's look at it again. With his explanation that he was explaining about if you want to elaborate a little bit on what he was trying to say, so that you understand it when it comes to the prayers. Because maybe he had it wrong and maybe others also had it wrong. Yeah.
Exactly. The claim is, what I want people to do is when they are listening to me, especially the correctional officer, I want you to listen attentively without emotions so that you know where I'm coming from and where I'm going. When I mentioned the notion of the salat, I said there is no one single hadith existing in the Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, or anywhere which shows the ikama, from ikama up to the salam of salat in its entirety, which is taught by the Prophet. What the scholars do is they go to the chunks of hadith books and take part narrations from people's hearsay and join them and say this is the salat. So if they claim the hadith narrated by Abu Dar in their Sahih al-Bukhari hadith, the Prophet went to the sky to go and bring salat to them, the 5 salat. According to that hadith, if he brought 5 salat, there is no salat al-Jum'ah there. There is no salat al-Eid. There is no salat al-Janaza inside the 5 salat he went to bring. But let's assume he went to bring that. When he brought it, he didn't show the number of rakat he brought in that hadith. According to Nana Aisha, when he brought that salat, it's 2 rakat. Then it later on became 4, 2, 3, and so on. How did it change from this to this? After, according to the hadith, after God says, La mubaddila min kalimati, that his words does not change. But then he changed to something else. So, however, to give it the benefit of the doubt, people think that the salats they've been praying 5 times today and doing 2 rakat fajr, 4 rakat zuhur, 4 rakat asr, 3 rakat maghrib, 4 rakat isha, they thought all these things has been taught from beginning to end in the one hadith book. It doesn't exist. It is just chunks they join together to make you think you find guidance in the hadith. They are not there. So I urge you, I encourage you to investigate, study, to know what the scholars teach you before you put your faith in there. Quran chapter 17 verse 36, it says, وَلَا تَخَفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِعِلْمٍ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. It says, do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. Indeed, the hearing, the eyesight, and the mind, all those will be answerable, questionable thereof. So beware.
Now, before we call it a night, somebody wants you to explain the meaning of Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar, I've done a video where I explain the meaning. When we say Allahu Akbar, now, if you say Allahu and you add Al in the middle and then Akbar, you are putting it in a superlative form, which is what we call Sigatul Tabdil. You are putting a preference in praising God, right? Now, remember, you mentioned Allah. When we say Rabb, you can say Rabbul Akram, Rabbul Ala, Rabbul Jalali wal Ikram, Azawajal, or whatever you want to put for the Rabb. But when it comes to Allah, there is La ilaha illallah. When it comes to the godly aspect of God, the moment you say Allahu Akbar, you are giving him a preference in terms of comparison. It becomes a comparative word because you are saying Allah is the greatest of which gods? Because there's only one God, Ilahun Wahid. So if it is alone, he calls himself in the Quran chapter 13, verse 9, he calls himself Al-Kabir. Al-Kabir seals the argument. He says the great, the magnificent. It seals the argument because we know after God, nobody can be greater.
No.
Al-Kabir. But the moment you say God is the greatest, number one, you say Allahu Al-Kabir. What is the comparison there? Is there another ilaha next to him? So why are you calling him Allahu Akbar? Greatest of who? Example, if I tell you Messi is the best, meaning they've already compared him with another good player or somebody better than the good player before saying Messi is the best. If Messi is alone, why will you say Messi is the best? Best of who? If there's no other footballer on earth and you say Messi is best, logically it doesn't sound. He has to be good alone. You understand? So the notion of using Akbar, God never said in the Quran, when you come to do Salat, you should call him, you should praise him Allahu Akbar. No, it doesn't exist. So it is people who formulate these ideologies and not coming from God, and then they keep saying Allahu Akbar. According to God, Quran chapter 17, verse 111, God says, وَكَبِّرُهُ تَكْبِيرًا. So if you say Allahu al-Kabir is enough. There's no Akbar. Kabir is enough. وَكَبِّرُهُ تَكْبِيرًا. You see? But then the scholars, they will tell you Aktabir. When they use Aktabir, they are telling you to use the Akbar, which is not from God. So beware.
We have somebody, let's take the last call on the line. Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Who is calling?
My name is Elijah. I'm calling from New York.
From New York. Bismillah.
My question is, I just want him to tell us how he does his salat, because I heard him from the beginning, but I really did not understand. I wanted to re-say it again.
No, I've already explained that.
Yeah, but it wasn't clear to me, honestly.
Okay, if you want the clarity, I have a full video where it explains that, because I don't want to repeat myself. I have a full video. If you want, I can give you the link where you can find a full video of how I did the salat, how the salat is done.
What's the link?
You go to my channel, Bush2G9, type on your this thing, Bush2G9.
Bush2G9.
Yes. Then you search Salat tutorial. Salat tutorial. You will see my video on my page. Yes. It's a full video, 20 minutes video, which tells you from the Salat from beginning to end, according to the Quran.
All right, no problem. If I find any difficulties, I'll try to reach out.
Yeah, no problem. You can reach out. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Before we end, somebody's asking this Quran 7 verse 11 or something. Oh, let me see who is called. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, they hang up. All right. Somebody's asking Quran 17 verse 111. It says, what does that mean?
In the end of the verse, God says, وَكَبِّرْهُ تَكْبِيرًا. وَكَبِّرْهُ تَكْبِيرًا. You have to magnify him with takbir. So when we say takbir is to say Allahu al-Kabir. If you say kabir is enough. Allahu al-Kabir is enough. You don't need to say Allahu Akbar. You understand? So chapter 17 verse 111, the last part of the verse, it says وَكَبِّرْهُ. You need to magnify God by takbir, not Allahu Akbar. No, not in the superlative form. You have to use kabir. That is enough. So God himself, he called himself in the Quran Al-Kabir. He never called himself Allahu Akbar or Akbar. No.
Okay. Ya komo kuma sai mu tambaye shi. Assalamu alaikum. In ka tambaye question ka bayan haka ne shi mu da sa'aya. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Baba na komo kuma baban da
Okay. Bismillah.
Yeah, no problem.
Qur'ani an sauke Qur'ani gaba da ko Qur'ani na zuwa aya ba aya ko wani abu na faruwa sannan Qur'ani ya dau shine question.
Okay, Najishi.
Okay.
The caller was asking that the Quran, did it came down all at once or did it come by step, like gradually? So the answer is found in Quran chapter 17, verse 105 to 106. God says, وَبِحَقِّ أَنزَلْنَاهُ وَبِالْحَقِّ نَزَلْ وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا مُبَشِّرًا وَنَذِيرًا. Then he says, وَقُرْآنًا فَرَقْنَاهُ لِتَقْرَعَهُ عَلَى النَّاسِ عَلَى الْمُكْسِ وَنَزَّلْنَاهُ تَنزِيلًا. So God says, and we have revealed it in truth, and it descended in truth. And we have only sent you, Muhammad, as a missionary and a warner. Then verse 106, together with a reading which we have separated so that you may read it to the people in order to remain, for it to remain among the people. And we have revealed it as a revelation, right? To summarize that answer, in Quran chapter 25, verse 32, the disbelievers at the time of Muhammad, this is the question they asked. They were asking, why? This is قال الذين كفروا لولا نزل عليه القرآن جملة واحدة كذلك لنثبت به فؤادك ورتلناه ترتيلا. God says, and those who disbelieve, they say, why was the Quran not revealed to him all at once, like a book at once to him? Then God says, thus, so that we may reinforce your mind for adaka with it. And we have revealed it, we have intonated it with what? Chanting, in intonation, like to be articulated in a form which it will be easy for people to comprehend. So that is the point. The Quran didn't come to him all at once. It came gradually by chapters, and then it was separated, and then it combined as a book.
Okay. Do you understand him?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, correct. No, understand. Very correct. Sura na tabbace da abina sun wata ma agna ruma ruma ke tabbata na rabba talab wa mratu mala talab. Suran nan ina batun abila kaga to ina so kawo mini abinda abila yi sannan aka kawo wannan sura ita. Kwashi na ce.
Okay, mun gode kore bayan mun gashe mu da saya. Wai
No, ala Africa. Me ina so da ni an kulna kan yan kulna. Me abila yi sannan wannan aya sauko saboda Qur'ani dai ya kawo mana aya ne kawai muka gani amma bai fadi mana ya abila ba. Ko mutane na hukuli abila biyayya tin sannan Allah ya sauko da wannan aya. Shi ta dai ayan nan na cikin Qur'ani akwai abin da abila yayi sannan aya ya sauko ko ba abin da abila yayi ayan dai ya dai sauko ka abila kawai dai ko
Yeah, I've heard his question. The caller is asking about Surah Al-Masad. He says Abilab. And according to the sectarians, they have the hadith books telling them that there's somebody called Abu Lahab or Abilab, right? So they have a narrative aspect, which is away from the Quran, telling them something which has nothing to do with the Quran in the first place. So when we say surah, a chapter is a subdivision work, usually numbered and titled. So the name of the chapter is called Masad, which means a fiber, right? Now, when you read the chapter, God says, Tabbat yada abihi lahab wa tabba. Now, underline the word lahab. Lahab. Underline it. Now, check the word abi. You hear the sectarian say abu. There's a difference. Even though this scholar did well, he said abi. Now, let's use the abi. We are going to check something. Remember, the Quran is to serve as a clarification of all things by itself, not somebody else, not something else. Quran chapter 16, verse 89. So the Quran, the Quran is in the book. It is to serve as a clarification of all things, right? So now we are going to see that clarification. Underline the word lahabi, watabba. So God says the handwork of Abi Lahab has been destroyed and he will perish. Now we are going to find who is this Abi Lahab. Is it the entity they are claiming in their hadith books, or is it an entity we can find in the Quran? Let's check. Verse 2. Ma agna anhu malu wa ma kasab. His wealth will neither avail him nor what he earned. Right? Then verse 3. Sayasla naran zata lahab. Now the word lahab has been repeated. In verse 1, there's the word lahabin with kesrate. That same lahabin has been repeated in verse 3. Lahabin, in Arabic, this is a 3-letter word. Now this lahabin, it means flame, or you can say flames. That is the word lahab. That's what it means. So yasla, this yasla means to be burnt. So yasla naharan zatala. He will be burned in the fire possessing what? Flames. So this flame. Now we will be coming to verse 1 to understand who it is. Then verse 4. وَمُرَاتُهُ حَمَّالَةَ hatab. So, and his wife, when we say wamra, amrat is woman, somebody's wife is wamrat, amrat. So, and his wife will be the carrier of the firewood, right? Then verse 5. فِي جِيدِهَا حَبْلٌ مِّن مَسَدٍ. So around her neck, or we can say in her neck or around her neck, hablun min masad, there is a rope of what? Fiber will be around the neck. So now the question arises, why will God dedicate a whole chapter to an entity and the entity is nowhere to be mentioned in the Quran? So let's check the word Abi. When we say Abi, it means the father, or we can say in English, we can say the don. When we say you are a father of something, it means you are the head of all. When we say you are the father of the house, it means you are the head of the house, including your wife, everybody. Do you get the point? So when we say the father, the moment we mention the word Abi Lahab, we translate it literally as the father of what? Flames. So the word Lahabin is flame. Now, who is the father of the flame? Who will be the boss of the flame on the day of judgment? Quran chapter 7, verse 11 to 18. It tells you Iblis will be the one to lead the people to hell. Some people will say, is it talking about Iblis? We are going to check. Remember, Iblis has a kabila. He, the devil, he has a kabila. And kabila is called what? Clan. Clan is only related by blood. Marriage. Now you, the jinn, you as the human being, you have a family. The jinn also has a family. They have descendants. According to Quran chapter 18, verse 50, the jinn has descendants as well, just like Adam also has descendants. Now remember, God is saying beware of the devil because he is the worst enemy. He wants to lead you to hell. Now the devil, according to this verse, he is the Abihilab God is defining to us. Somebody will say, how was he able to attain ma'agna anu ma'lu wa ma'kasab? How was he able to attain wealth? Quran chapter 17, verse 64. According to God, God is telling the devil, وَشَارِكُهُمْ fil amwal. The devil can have money as well. He also has money. And the devil has women. He has horses. He has everything, just like you are thinking. Because remember, the jinn and the human beings were created to serve God. They know what is called pleasure. They also procreate. They also have descendants, just like you human being having descendants. So when you check the context of the verse, the word Abihilab here, the father of flame, throughout the context is only attributed to Iblis and his wife, not to an entity outside the Quran. Number one, Iblis, is the top notch of disbelievers for God to dedicate an entire chapter to him, instead of going to dedicate to an Arabian who is not even near to the epitome of what Pharaoh did. And then you claim he is the one mentioned in this chapter. No, I beg your pardon. That is not Abu Lahab, according to the Hadith books. This is talking about Iblis himself, the punishment he will have on the day of judgment. Thank you.
Now, we can't understand it, Shai. Bayan da za ka understand juna na nemi lokacin komo da shi ba in kawo ka iso ka zo ku tattauna da kyau. Gadi.
One love, later. Come on, TikTok, ka pause ko ka end this.
Yeah, disconnect this as you never should about inshallah. So what we do is we will find time, because it's a lot of people are requesting that we need to come back again. So we'll find time and come back again, because a lot of people are requesting that they need to come back again. I need to bring you back again.
You know, yeah, no problem. We can arrange that in the.
We'll arrange that later, and then we'll talk about it. So I think I would like to thank you very much for coming on. But is there anything that you forgot to add before we call it a night?
Actually, let me see if I can add up this advice to people concerning what I represent. Actually, I will advise people so much so that please leave emotions out. I know sometimes it's hard to accept something you have no experience in, or you cannot fathom the greatness of what is being told to you. I understand you. Yeah. But however, if you give me the chance, I know most sectarians, when they watch me, they say, wow, this guy is smart, he's brilliant, he's whatever. Not only my smartness. I don't use my smartness to teach people foolishness. No, I use my smartness because it's a gift, God-given gift. So I lead people to the right way mentality, the right way to think. Remember, if you can put your blind faith in scholars, you think they will lead you to paradise, then think twice. They are never going to lead you to paradise, because they are interested in your money and not your faith. So think twice. Your salvation is more important to you. You must know your salvation depends on you. The way you reason with things, as God told you in Quran chapter 17, verse 30 says, do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. So if you have been praying 5 times, ask yourself, where is the evidence? If you say you are a Muslim, what made you a Muslim? How did you become a Muslim? What makes you think you are qualified to be a Muslim? What if I call you a mushrik? You think I cannot prove it? I have the evidence to it, because I can see it. When somebody goes out to steal, what does it become? A thief. When somebody regularly goes out to rape, what does it become? A rapist. When somebody goes out to actually fraud people, what does it become? A fraudster. So when I make lectures and you see me calling people mushriks, I have the evidence. Even in a courtroom, I can stand the test of time. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My point is just to wake up the masses and to know that we've been put in a deep hole and we need to wake up. So this is where I drop my point, and then hope to see you again another time, inshallah. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for coming on and having patience and for us to discuss it. We'll bring you back, because a lot of people are saying we should bring you back. So we'll find time and come back, and then take care of other areas that we haven't touched yet, so that we'll give people a chance.
Yes. I'm open to every question.
So you can give chance to call and people to call and ask questions. So those who don't agree with you, they also need to come here and call and ask questions, because
simple.
They always say that and they don't even come and call. So if you don't agree, just come on board and call.
Exactly. My last point, Hajj Africa, even with Ayuba who called. Ayuba is like a brother to me, or I would say a big brother. He's a friend, he's a big brother to me. He's a close person to me. We've spoken a lot of times. It is not a must for you to agree with me in everything. You see, at a point when you ask him that, oh, you bring him, he says, oh, no, I don't have that knowledge to argue with Baba. It's not as if he doesn't know, or he doesn't know I don't have knowledge, or I have knowledge. He knows I have knowledge. But the point is, it is not a must to agree with everything a person says. No. We all have the intelligence to decipher and examine things we want to follow. Nobody is forcing anybody. But whatever claims I make, I can prove it. But the question is, my opponents, when they make claims, can they prove it? Let's find out. That's why I'm called a correctional officer. Thank you, Alaj.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate
And I would like to thank all my viewers for coming on board, those who are watching us on YouTube, Facebook. I'm very sorry for those on TikTok. We'll make sure next time we get it right. I would like to thank everybody for coming on board. Like I said, I also want to thank my guest, Baba Shuaibu, for coming on board and having patience.
Thank you, Hash.
To explain everything to us. Thank also the callers, those who were able to call in. I want to thank all of them for coming in.
And the last one, for my viewers, I have Baba Sedu, I have Jimmy Salis, I have Sister Rashida, I have all those ones. I have Christian Chris from Albania. He's a good brother to me, a good friend as well. I have a lot of viewers who watch. I know they are watching, and I thank them for their support. All those watching and those who are not here who watch later, both my lovers and my haters, thank you all. I know you watch later, so thank you. I appreciate the support and your presence. So Haj, this is where I leave you for now. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks my viewers. So I really thank everybody who came on board. Thank you very, very much. My name is Alhaji Africa, coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio, United States. You have a great night, depending on where you are. You have a great night, and I will see you guys on my next program next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Kasance lafiya.